During the new year, my husband had his childhood sweetheart make me several plates of dumplings. After eating the first plate, the hospital informed me that my test results confirmed cancer, while my husband's childhood sweetheart's leukemia miraculously healed, leaving her radiant and glowing. After eating the second plate, my restaurant was exposed for food safety issues, fined a huge sum, and went bankrupt, while the childhood sweetheart won a gold medal in an international cake competition. After eating the third plate, my parents died from gas poisoning. I was suspected of killing my family for insurance money and was despised by everyone, eventually freezing to death under an overpass, impoverished and ill, and my husband's childhood sweetheart was recognized by her billionaire biological parents, gaining fame, fortune, and endless affection, flying side by side with my husband. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the night of the lunar New Year's Eve. The day we were eating dumplings. Come on, have a taste. Xiao Xiao specially made this plate of dumplings for you. They're so fragrant. In the blink of an eye, my husband Qin Haichuan had already picked up a dumpling and shoved it toward my mouth. I practically jumped out of my seat. Grabbing my bag, I said, "I'm not eating anymore. You all continue. I suddenly have a collaboration to discuss. I need to step out." The familiar surroundings before me made me realize that I had been reborn. Thinking back to my last moments before death, Qin Haichuan and Lin Xiaoxiao had come to mock me, saying that a few plates of luck-changing dumplings had taken away my good fortune, blame me for being foolish, blame me for being kind-hearted, for trusting them too much. Now I'm leaving with a clear conscience. Let's see whose luck they'll snatch this time. Qin Haichuan panicked and blocked the doorway. "Honey, don't rush. I'll pack the dumplings for you to take and eat, otherwise every time you get busy, you forget to eat, and your stomach suffers. How about I come along to keep an eye on you?" Qin Haichuan is lingering like a ghost, determined to watch me eat the dumplings with his own eyes. I also learned to lie without changing my expression. No, the business partner said he'd treat me to a big meal after we finished talking. Eating dumplings now would be too filling. Qin Haichuan's brows furrowed tightly. Then, at least have one dumpling first. It's Xiaoxia's heartfelt gesture, and second, eating dumplings on New Year's Eve is auspicious, for good luck. Looking at Qin Haichuan's face, which seemed to be full of concern for me, I was utterly disgusted. I snapped impatiently, "No time, I'm in a hurry." I pushed him aside and turned the doorknob, but Qin Haichuan stubbornly squeezed in front of me. He kept urging me to take at least one bite, even poking a dumpling toward my face. Furious, I slapped the entire plate of dumplings out of his hands. "There, now they're all on the floor. Let's see what you can eat. It's all your fault for forcing me. Not only is the food wasted, but the plate is also broken. How unlucky for New Year's Eve. It's all because of you, you jinx. Disgusting. Ugh, you harmful thing." Qin Haichuan was stunned by my turning the tables. I quickly pushed open the door, but Lin Xiaoxiao grabbed my wrist again. "Sister, please don't scold Haichuan anymore. It doesn't matter if the dumplings were spilled. I specially made several plates for you, as many as you want. They're all cooked now, so have a bite." My heart instantly felt suffocated. Lin Xiaoxiao, really is relentless. I cursed angrily. "Can't you understand human language? I'm rushing off to make money and have no time. Don't block me. If you're so free, why don't you go sweep the floor clean?" Lin Xiaoxiao was also stunned by my scolding. The truth is, I had been too good to Qin Haichuan before, and by extension, I had given her a lot of face, but now that I've been reborn, who would still be polite to an enemy? But I went back to my hometown with Qin Haichuan to celebrate the new year and have a reunion dinner. The big table in the house was surrounded by his aunts and uncles. Seeing that both he and Lin Xiaoxiao were scolded by me, they were unhappy. His uncle spoke sarcastically. "Hey, we all understand. The big boss looks down on us villagers. He feels it's beneath him to eat at the same table, so he's in a hurry to leave." Qin Haichuan's second aunt also joined in fanning the flames. "That's right. So back then we said Haichuan might as well marry Xiaoxiao. At least his old bones wouldn't be looked down on. What a sin." Haichuan's wife, "If that's not what you meant, you must pick up these dumplings and eat them today. Do you even know what it means to cherish food in the old days? Times were so hard that we could wash things from the garbage and still eat them, and now you're being picky. Well, I don't think you and Haichuan are suited for each other anyway. Maybe you just shouldn't be together." These old-timers who trade on their seniority. In my past life, they always favored Lin Xiaoxiao and gave me a hard time. Because of Qin Haichuan, I repeatedly swallowed my anger and held back. Now I clap my hands with satisfaction. "You're right. I do think your whole family is unworthy of me. I don't want to live this life anymore. Qin Haichuan, let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce." Qin Haichuan panicked completely. "If he divorces me, how can he help Lin Xiaoxiao take my good fortune?" Qin Haichuan was so frightened that he immediately scolded his relatives. "Shut up, don't make things worse." His aunts and uncles felt wronged. "Haichuan, we're doing this for your sake. Then they all started accusing him of being unfilial. Qin Haichuan's head was pounding as if it had doubled in size, and I seized the opportunity to step out of the room. Behind me, Lin Xiaoxia's eerie sobbing echoed once more. Sister, just go. I know you look down on me because I have leukemia. You think I'm dirty, so you won't eat the dumplings I made with my own hands, but I don't have much time left. I just wanted to have one last reunion meal with all of you. Can't you even grant me this wish? Woo-woo, my fans, I'm so heartbroken, Lin Xiaoxiao cried to the camera. I only then realized that she had started a live stream at some point, relying on the persona of a beautiful woman battling illness and enduring hardship. She had attracted up to 1 million fans. Now, when I opened my phone, I saw that her live stream already had hundreds of thousands of viewers, with more continuously pouring in, and the comments were all cursing me. Who is this cold-blooded person with such a smug face? Just looking at her makes me want to hit her. Leukemia isn't contagious. What's wrong with her eating a dumpling? Look down on others, thinking they're so high and mighty. Oh, I recognize her. This woman is the CEO of some big chain hotel, named Xinqing. Alright, let's expose her and get her trending. Everyone, boycott her hotel and don't spend money there. Don't give a penny to that beast. Watching Lin Xiaoxiao's smug, sneering smile, I felt both angry and anxious. The spring festival is the peak season for hotel bookings. If the public boycotts us at this time, it will cause irreparable and massive losses, Lin Xiaoxiao hypocritically said. Dear fans, don't misunderstand. I thought about it. And I think my sister was probably in a hurry to rush to a business meeting and just lost her temper with me in the heat of the moment. As she spoke, she brought out another plate of dumplings. As long as my sister takes a bite of these dumplings, it will prove she doesn't discriminate against patients. So, let's not harm the career she's worked so hard to build. The barrage of comments is urging me to eat it. It almost feels like they'll make me die today if I don't eat it. But the next second, I open the hospital's official account and point the electronic record of my scheduled medical checkup toward Lin Xiaoxiao's live stream camera. I cry out loudly, I'm also a patient. Please, let me go. I said that over the years, while striving for my career, I never ate on time, and my stomach got ruined. All of this is true. Then I made up nonsense about recently feeling like my stomach was on fire, even vomiting blood, suspecting it might be stomach cancer. So I went for a checkup. Maybe I don't have much time left. I was so upset and wanted to find a place to cry alone, but there was already a patient here, and I didn't want to add to the table's troubles, so I was in a hurry to go out, and I had a stomachache, so how could I eat anything? But Xiaoxiao insisted on dragging me to stay. I was both angry and anxious, so I lost my temper. I'm sorry for ruining everyone's New Year's mood, looking at my past electronic medical records. Netizens believed me even more. They all started blaming Lin Xiaoxiao. Xiaoxiao, you're sick. Can't you see that others are also suffering as patients? Do you have to force someone to cry in public before you're happy? The big boss has worked hard to get where he is today, finally able to enjoy life, only to fall ill. How tragic, and you almost ruined his business. How heartless, seeing the situation turning unfavorable. Lin Xiaoxiao collapsed to the ground in tears again. With a tone of feigned innocence, it's my fault. My leukemia has gotten so severe that my eyes are starting to fail, and I couldn't see how much my sister was suffering. I've caused harm. In fact, I should have died long ago. Immediately, die-hard fans rushed to defend her. Have you forgotten? Xiaoxiao is the real patient. As for that boss who hasn't even been diagnosed yet, what's there to cry about? If you're that fragile, why not just die of fright? A perfect opportunity. I simply shouted that I couldn't go on, took the chance to cover my face and run off as if seeking death, embracing fragility to the extreme. Those who criticized me in the live stream were instantly drowned out by a wave of backlash. How can you provoke a patient like this? What if something happens? Besides, this whole thing was started by Xiaoxiao, so you're also to blame. Lin Xiaoxiao's face turned green with anger from the scolding. Meanwhile, I had already driven straight to the hospital. Although I didn't receive a cancer notification this time, I decided to go and ask in person just to be safe. However, halfway there, a sharp pain suddenly struck my stomach. I struggled to the hospital entrance, got out of the car, but then the world spun around me and I collapsed to the ground. Why? I didn't even touch those dumplings. Could something still happen? I don't know how much time passed, but I heard my parents crying. Our daughter is still so young. If someone has to get sick, let it be us. Why did she have to get cancer? Beside, Qin Haichuan was still being hypocritical. Dad, Mom, it's all my fault for not taking good care of Qingqing. Don't worry, I'll stay with her until the very end. But in my past life, wasn't I ultimately killed by Qin Haichuan? Startled, I immediately struggled to get up from the hospital bed. Qin Haichuan pretended to be full of concern. Honey, you're awake. Did you hear everything just now? Then you know you have stomach cancer? And you really shouldn't go hungry. As he spoke, he handed me a thermos filled with dumplings. Here, have some dumplings. I was horrified. In my previous life, Qin Haichuan took advantage of my hospitalization for confirmed stomach cancer and used the same words to trick me into eating the second plate of dumplings. Then I received a phone call. Something had happened at the restaurant. The subsequent closure of the store left me with no money for hospitalization, making my situation utterly miserable. Thinking of this, I angrily knocked the thermos cup away, scattering the dumplings all over the floor. Get out, Qin Haichuan, I said. I want a divorce. Qin Haichuan knelt on the ground, tidying up, pitifully saying, Ching Ching, I know you look down on my rural background, and you look down on my family's things even more, but I'm thinking about your health. Stomach cancer can't go hungry. Even if you just take one bite, I won't divorce. I'll take care of you, and when you're better, you can leave me if you want. Qin Haichuan's melodramatic performance was so convincing that even passing patients were pointing at me. With such a good husband, what is this woman being so fussy about? She must be a terrible person who got what she deserved. That's why she got cancer. My parents were also moved by him and started urging me, Ching Ching, be good. It's rare for Haichuan to be so sincere. Just eat it. My mother picked up the thermos and held the remaining dumpling to my lips, her eyes filled with tears as she spoke. If it really gets to the point where you can't eat anything, then it's all over. Please, at least eat a little, if only to put your parents' minds at ease. The old man's tone was almost pleading. Looking at their already graying temples, my head grew hot, and I was almost ready to agree. I had just opened my mouth, but I forced myself to turn my head away. I don't want dumplings. Get me something else. Shouldn't the patient's feelings be the top priority right now? The sight of Qin Haichuan makes me sick. I can't eat. At that, my parents had no choice but to ask Qin Haichuan to leave first. I breathed a sigh of relief, and Dad, wiping away his tears, brought me a bowl of soup. All right, Ching Ching, no matter what conflict you have with Haichuan, you should at least eat what Mom and Dad made, right? Don't starve yourself anymore. I nodded and opened the thermos, only to be hit by a strong smell of meat. My intuition told me something was off. Dad, Mom, don't you usually make light mushroom soup? My father stammered. It's the new year, so of course we should eat more meat. We made you an egg and minced meat soup, but my parents are honest people. Their faces turn red whenever they lie. I said seriously, if you don't tell me the truth, I won't eat anything today. Having lived a second life, I naturally had to be cautious. My mother immediately rushed to my bedside, heartbroken, and tearfully confessed, Ching Ching, you can't go hungry. This soup was given to us by Haichuan for you. He said you two had a little argument, and he was afraid you'd be too angry to eat his food and hurt your stomach. He asked us to help him, to fulfill his wish of taking good care of you. I'm gritting my teeth. Look, the minced meat in this soup is actually dumpling filling, mixed with broken dumpling wrappers and egg whites. If you don't look closely, you can't even tell. Qin Haichuan is going to great lengths to poison me. Just then, the doctor happened to come in for rounds and said with a frown, haven't we already told the family it's just acute gastritis? Why are you crying so sadly? It's really affecting the patient's mood. My mother was taken aback. Didn't Haichuan say it was stomach cancer? He told us to feed Ching Ching more so she could hold on. I sneered. Qin Haichuan really gave me a surprise by using my parents like that. If I'm actually fine, then it's his turn now. How about I give him a surprise too? I picked up the thermos and walked downstairs to the hospital. Qin Haichuan was still waiting there, not having left yet. Honey, why did you come out? I smiled playfully. I just thought it would be more appetizing to eat while taking a walk. Would you like to keep me company? Of course. Qin Haichuan had to keep an eye on me, so he watched helplessly as I walked to the hospital entrance, waved my hand, and poured all the meat soup for a few stray mangy dogs. I just want to see what kind of fate Lin Xiaoxiao will exchange with these stray dogs this time. And Qin Haichuan let out a miserable cry and pounced, fighting with the dogs for the food. Shin Qing, how can you be so vicious? Qin Haichuan cursed at me while fighting with the dog, so frantic that he couldn't choose his words carefully. I blinked my eyes, pretending to be innocent. Qin Haichuan, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Besides, it's not like there's no food at home. Why are you fighting with the dog for it? The shocking statement immediately drew a large crowd. People were gossiping about Qin Haichuan. Is this guy crazy? Does he think the stuff in the dog's mouth is especially tasty, and he just has to dig it out to see how salty it is? Exactly. I've seen greedy eaters before, but never one so greedy that they'd fight a dog for food. Qin Haichuan's face flushed red from the scolding. He shouted that it wasn't like that, but in his distraction, he got bitten several more times by the dog. Furious, he roared at me, Shin Qing, I know you have money, and as a couple, you look down on the food I prepared for you. You trample on my feelings, fine, but I just can't stand you wasting food. As he spoke, Qin Haichuan even tried to pry the meat filling from the dog's mouth, as if he truly couldn't bear to see the food go to waste. He had no choice but to make an effort, otherwise, Lin Xiaoxiao really might risk her life for the dog. He could hardly imagine it. I'm so angry I could laugh. It's all thanks to Qin Haichuan, who, seeing that someone had started live streaming, didn't forget to put on an act in front of the camera to slander me. Right then and there, I started acting too. Nonsense, I have acute gastritis and can't eat greasy food, but I didn't want to waste it. I saw the poor dogs with nothing to eat in the winter, so I fed them. I was just trying to be kind. Qin Haichuan, on the other hand, you used to say you hated stray dogs the most, that they were an eyesore. You even wished they'd all starve to death in the winter. But I never imagined you'd be so cruel as to starve them to death, even going so far as to snatch away their food. If you say you're not, then don't take it. After all, taking it back is useless, and no one will eat it. Upon hearing this, Qin Haichuan froze all over. What should I do? If I continue fighting the dog for the food, it will confirm my identity as a malicious and perverse person, but if I don't fight for it, should I just stand by and watch Lin Xiaoxiao trade it for a dog's life? In the end, I couldn't help but sigh that he truly loved money. Qin Haichuan actually gritted his teeth and continued to pry open the dog's mouth. After all, if Lin Xiaoxiao didn't prosper, how could he rise along with her? The onlookers were all amazed by the spectacle. Was this guy's brain damaged by a dog bite when he was young? He hates dogs so much. It's so embarrassing in public. If it were my son, I'd break his legs. Exactly. Besides, it's already hard enough for stray dogs to find food in winter. For him to be so ruthless and try to wipe them all out is just heartless. Qin Haichuan was in a difficult position, feeling as if he were being roasted over a fire. Suddenly, someone shouted, setting off firecrackers, drive away the bad luck. A bunch of firecrackers came flying over and exploded right next to Qin Haichuan. The explosion left his hands bleeding profusely, and the stray dogs took the opportunity to scatter and escape. What will become of Lin Xiaoxiao's life now? I'm looking forward to it. And Qin Haichuan desperately pounded the ground. I casually remarked, what's the matter? It's just a dog running away, making it seem like someone's life is about to end. How ridiculous. Qin Haichuan's expression looked as if he wanted to devour me, but the next moment, I took out my phone and waved it at him. Don't be like this. I can see you're not in your right mind. That's why I was kind enough to video call your boss just now and show him what you look like. Guess what? I leaned close to his ear and mocked him, then turned the call volume up to the maximum. All we heard was his boss announcing, Haichuan, seeing that you're not in good condition, you don't need to come to work anymore. Qin Haichuan stood there in disbelief. I continued to sting him. Congratulations. You're unemployed. How about it? Do you want to thank me for helping? How about it? Now you can also taste the feeling of being desperate and impoverished that I experienced in my previous life. Feeling good, Qin Haichuan glared at me, his fists repeatedly clenching and unclenching. A few seconds later, however, he suddenly hugged my leg, crying and pleading, Honey, what exactly have I done to upset you? I'll change. I can't live without you. I let out a scornful laugh. Qin Haichuan still thinks he can fool me like I'm an idiot. He believes that, just like before, a few sweet words will make me so happy I lose my bearings, and even if he loses his job, he can still live off me and eat my food. He can even continue to secretly use my money to support his childhood sweetheart. Unfortunately, even his precious Lin Xiaoxiao is about to have problems now. I laughed and said, I already said we're getting a divorce, so don't cling on shamelessly. This way, you can go find your childhood sweetheart, right? Speaking of which, she's sick. I wonder how she's doing now. Qin Haichuan shuddered all over. The thought of what might happen to Lin Xiaoxiao made him so anxious that he immediately rushed off. I was curious too. Those stray dogs were supposed to die today. In my previous life, I happened to hear at the hospital that these dogs had eaten too much toxic garbage and died from poisoning on New Year's Eve while still starving. How pitiful. I'll just give them one last meal. Let's see how long Lin Xiaoxiao can keep jumping around after I've swapped the lives of these dead dogs. She wouldn't also be poisoned on the spot, would she? I returned to the ward, turned on my phone, and entered Lin Xiaoxiao's live stream. She still looked pitifully sickly, as if she could be gone at any moment. It was about time for the show to start. My parents couldn't help but ask me, Qing, why are you and Haichuan both acting so strange today? What exactly happened between you two? I only said I discovered Qin Haichuan and Lin Xiaoxiao were having an affair, so I want a divorce, and I don't dare eat their food for fear they might harm me. Seeing how sharp my business instincts have always been, my parents chose to believe me. My mother suddenly realized and said, No wonder, I was wondering why Qin Haichuan kept urging you to eat dumplings. Now I remember, when I was young, I heard some elderly people in the village say During the New Year's transition of fortunes, by reciting certain incantations and mixing one's own blood into the dumpling filling for others to eat, one can steal the person's good luck. At this point, my mother broke into a cold sweat and tightly grasped my hand. Whether it's true or not, be careful, my dear. Back when the fortune teller said you have a top-tier destiny of wealth and honor, I feared others might be jealous enough to want your life. I gritted my teeth in silent resentment. Far from it. In my previous life, Qin Haichuan not only wanted my life, but also killed my parents, who were struggling to support my medical expenses by collecting scrap metal, no matter how hard it was. I can't forget how my parents praised Qin Haichuan for his unwavering loyalty, personally cooking dumplings for me and urging me not to let him down. That very night, they died from gas poisoning, and I was suspected of killing my own family to collect insurance money for my medical treatment. Dying despised by everyone, but this time, it's my turn to play Qin Haichuan and his crew to their demise. Just listen to Lin Xiaoxiao screaming in the live stream. The time has come. I saw her face visibly swelling in front of the camera, as if from a severe allergy or skin disease, with large patches of skin peeling and falling off. The red, uneven skin underneath was exposed, and at first glance, it looked exactly like the stray mangy dogs, watching the skin on her face keep peeling off. Lin Xiaoxiao was on the verge of a breakdown, yet the netizens were still laughing at her. Anchor, what kind of novel special effect is this? Teach me how to use it. It's so fun. Look, it's just like a mangy dog. Her proud appearance was being mocked, and Lin Xiaoxiao was so angry her eyes turned red, but the laughter in the live stream only grew louder. Don't say it, this performance looks so real. Is it because you usually cry so miserably, and this time during the new year? You deliberately put on this act to amuse us. The streamer is thoughtful. The more miserably you cry, the funnier it becomes for us to watch. After all, a sudden change in fortune is too bizarre. Even a sudden illness wouldn't cause skin to peel off in the blink of an eye, so no one would think something was actually wrong. Seeing her own tragedy turned into a laughingstock for others, Lin Xiaoxiao completely broke down, pounding her chest and stomping her feet in heart-wrenching agony. I am admiring this scene. What? Can't handle it already. In my previous life, when I was huddled under the overpass, she and Qin Haichuan laughed even more gleefully than this. Right now, I'm stirring things up again in the live stream. I hope the host is just acting. Otherwise, with this shameless behavior, it seems like you can't keep your face anymore. Oh dear, Xiaoxiao, how can you live without your face? Lin Xiaoxiao was deeply stung by my sarcastic remarks, her eyes rolling back as if she were about to faint from anger. At that moment, the bedroom door was forcefully pushed open, and Qin Haichuan rushed in. Xiaoxiao, are you okay? His words abruptly stopped as he stared in shock at Lin Xiaoxiao's face. He exclaimed with anguish, damn it, it's all that wretched woman's fault. I snorted coldly, so he could just curse away. It's just impotent rage. Now Lin Xiaoxiao's life has been swapped for a dog's life. What can be done about it? Lin Xiaoxiao was on the verge of going crazy with anxiety, throwing herself into Qin Haichuan's arms without a care, crying and complaining. Haichuan, what's going on? Didn't she eat the dumplings? Could something have gone wrong? I don't care. You have to save me. You said you loved me most in this lifetime. Qin Haichuan comforted her with a pained heart. Don't worry, Xiaoxiao, I won't abandon you. We grew up together, and I only married Qin to spend her money on you. As soon as the words fell, the live broadcast room exploded. What? Did I accidentally stumble upon some juicy gossip? Are the scumbag and the shameless woman confessing their feelings to each other, forgetting that there are still viewers in the live broadcast room, still talking about Qin? Hey, isn't she the female boss from that live stream before? I looked it up. The guy Qin Haichuan is actually Qin's husband. How tragic. Qin is not only sick but also being cheated on by a freeloader. My parents stared at the screen, their teeth clenched so tight they could almost shatter. That beast Qin Haichuan, bullying my daughter. I'm going to break his legs right now, but I held my dad back. It's not worth it. Besides, thanks to Qin Haichuan and Lin Xiaoxiao being so panicked and flustered that they forgot about the live stream, we got to see this great show. I had already contacted my media friends earlier to try and stir up some hype around this. Then, with the help of thousands of enthusiastic netizens frantically tagging me, I logged into my official account to come in and make my accusations. I never expected that the person closest to me, the one who shares my pillow, would betray me. I even thought about divorcing him earlier, believing I was seriously ill and didn't want to burden him. In front of the public, I appear pitiful and innocent. All the blame lies with that scumbag and that despicable woman. Today, everyone saw that it was Qin Haichuan and the others who wronged me first, with evidence. When it comes to filing for divorce in court, he, as the at-fault party, won't have any advantage in the division of property. Moreover, I want them to be utterly disgraced. Let them also taste the bitterness of being despised and attacked by everyone. Only after the barrage of comments had cursed their ancestors for 18 generations did Lin Xiaoxiao remember to check her phone. Her gaze instantly filled with despair. She cried out in agony, "It's over. It's all over." Qin Haichuan was still unaware of the situation. Lowering his head to kiss and comfort her, suddenly, his phone vibrated wildly. When he answered, his uncle exclaimed in shock, "Xiaoxiao is still live streaming. What are you two doing in front of the camera? Now it's perfect. The whole country knows you two are having an affair." Qin Haichuan stared at the screen filled with curses. He trembled with fear, his face as pale as a corpse. His uncle continued to strike. "Shenqing is watching. Now she's even more determined to divorce you. It's your fault, and now everyone has seen it. There's no way out. You'd better admit your mistake quickly. This marriage cannot end in divorce." I sneered coldly. "Don't think Qin Haichuan's uncle seems to be on my side. He's actually worried that without me, Qin Haichuan won't have the money to keep them living in luxury. Usually, they put on airs as elders and give me attitude, thinking I wouldn't dare to get a divorce. Right, now it's too late. Qin Haichuan lost his job, and with his reputation tarnished online, no one will hire him. If we get divorced and he runs out of money, he'll have to go back to his hometown and farm with them." Thinking of this, Qin Haichuan immediately knelt down in front of me, facing the camera. He cried with tears and snot, begging me, "Honey, I know I was wrong. Xiaoxiao and I grew up together since childhood, and in a moment of deep affection, I forgot my boundaries." But I asked sharply, "Oh, forgot your boundaries? But you didn't forget to use my money to support her," raising her on the side. "You married me just for my money, you said it yourself, you beast." Qin Haichuan, my questioning and Qin Haichuan's excuses once again ignited the anger of the audience in the live stream. People cursed him while pushing him to the top of the trending searches. He earned the hashtag, the most shameless gigolo of the year. At this point, I was Qin Haichuan's last lifeline. He struggled desperately, "Honey, don't take my words seriously. I was just comforting Xiaoxiao because she was sick. And she liked hearing it. She's jealous of you. That's right, she's the one who kept clinging to me and acting ambiguous. I'm innocent. It's all because of that vixen." Lin Xiaoxiao, already physically and emotionally wounded, couldn't bear this provocation. She threw herself at Qin Haichuan, pounding and hitting him. "How could you say that about me?" "Several times. It was you who took the initiative. You said you couldn't stand strong women and liked me for being gentle and obedient. Now that my face is ruined, you don't want me anymore. Qin Haichuan, I hope you die a horrible death." She clawed wildly, scratching Qin Haichuan's face until it was covered in marks. He impatiently shoved her away with force, saying, "I used to think you were delicate and needed my protection, but now I see I was wrong about you. What kind of tiger mom? I just said a few words and you got angry. So unreasonable." Lin Xiaoxiao was so furious that she started fighting with Qin Haichuan. I just watched them fight like dogs, biting each other until they were covered in wounds and dripping with blood. After that, I threw out one more sentence, "See you in court. I will use every means to reclaim everything I deserve." However, Qin Haichuan's family did not agree, and a large group of them came knocking the very next day. They all knelt down in unison. His eldest uncle cried out in despair, "Qing Haichuan lost his parents when he was young. We relatives raised him. And we know his character best. He's not a bad person, he just made a mistake in the heat of the moment. Give him another chance. If you're heartless and don't give him a chance, I'll..." Qin Haichuan's uncle aimed his head straight at the stone pillar by the door. "I'll just smash my head against your doorstep and die. Then everyone will say you, a capitalist, forced your brother-in-law to his death on New Year's Day. How heartless. I'll ruin your reputation and see how you can still do business." But I made a please gesture. "Go ahead and hit it, but don't forget I have surveillance cameras installed here. Once I release the footage, everyone will know it was you who threatened me. You scoundrel, after you die, you'll still be despised. Who knows, maybe someone will even take pity on me and dig up your grave, scattering your ashes to the wind, so you can never rest in peace." The elderly in their village were the most superstitious, deeply concerned about peace after death. My words left Qin Haichuan's uncle frozen in fear. Besides, would this old fool really be willing to die? He awkwardly stepped back from the pillar, unsure whether to leave or stay, his old face flushed red with embarrassment. Qin Haichuan, unwilling to give up, said, "Shenqing, are you sure you want to divorce me, even if I'm at fault?" "As long as I don't agree. The law can't force me to leave with nothing. At the very least, I'll take away 30% of your assets. TSK, thinking about how wealthy you are, I'd still come out ahead." He spoke in a tone that suggested I could do nothing to him. The petty man gloated, saying, "If I take the money, I might just run off with Lin Xiaoxiao. Are you really willing to see that happen? If you change your mind now, I'll give you another chance." I answered him with a resounding slap across the face. Qin Haichuan was stunned. "You damn woman, how dare you?" I slapped him again to shut him up. "Listen to me, so what if it's only 30%? I'm more capable than you, and I can earn back several times that in the blink of an eye. Who told you I'm the wealthy, enviable, and unattainable life you all covet?" These words struck the old fools so hard they pounded their chests in frustration. My wealth suffocated them. And Qin Haichuan's face twisted with resentment. I laughed even more heartily. "Can't handle it already? Let me tell you more. The money Qin Haichuan gave to Lin Xiaoxiao, I will sue to recover as marital joint property. Presumably, Lin Xiaoxiao has spent all that money on medical treatment and her usual extravagance. You can just wait for the 30% of the property you took to be paid back to me in the end. By then, your whole family will be penniless, waiting to live under a bridge together." Qin Haichuan trembled all over. "Ching ching. Are you really going to be this ruthless? Get out." I slammed the door shut. After that, they came to my door a few more times, but I had security drive them away in advance each time, so they simply stopped coming. But I knew they wouldn't give up easily, so I hired a private detective to help install surveillance cameras. Sure enough, I received crucial footage. In the video, Qin Haichuan and several elders were gathered around a table, giving him advice. "Haichuan, such a great opportunity. How could you let the dumplings go to the dogs? A person only gets one chance in a lifetime to change their fate, and now Lin Xiaoxiao is ruined." His second aunt muttered, "Why are you all blaming Haichuan? If you ask me, it's all Lin Xiaoxiao's own bad luck. She just doesn't have the fortune for it. Have you heard about that string of incidents she's been involved in lately? It was said that Lin Xiaoxiao had been plagued by a streak of bad luck recently. First, the cake entry in the competition was exposed for plagiarizing ideas, followed by a report of worsening leukemia. Even Qin Haichuan's uncle couldn't help but comment, "Bad luck, such bad luck." Recently, a billionaire was coming to this area to look for his daughter. After seeing her trending on social media and learning she was from that city, he found it so disgusting that he simply took a detour. So I say Xiaoxiao is already useless. Just throw her away. Don't let her drag us down. Haichuan, you're not still reluctant to part with her, are you? Qin Haichuan thought for a moment and shook his head. He loved himself the most. Where in the world are there no women? Where are there no beautiful flowers? Let her fend for herself. We should still think of some way to make up for it, and I forwarded the scene to Lin Xiaoxiao. After sending it, Lin Xiaoxiao didn't reply for a long time. I didn't bother to pay much attention to her either and continued listening to Qin Haichuan's uncle say, "For this dumpling exchange of luck, it must be between men and men, women and women. Haichuan, I heard you say before that your leader has a good fate. Well, it seems their wicked intentions just won't die." This nest of vipers conspired again, spending a fortune to bribe the female secretary around Qin Haichuan's leader, sending him dumplings to eat. Wishful thinking, but unfortunately, they ran into me. On the day Qin Haichuan was about to act, I had someone switch the dumplings. "Qin Haichuan, what kind of fate should I change for you this time?" I pondered as I walked, when suddenly a mad dog charged at me, startling me so much that I dropped the dumplings. The mad dog then ate the dumplings. I was astonished. It must have been fate. That very day, Qin Haichuan suddenly went mad, took a knife, and hacked all his relatives in the house to death, like a rabid dog, leaving no one alive. Then, after sobering up a bit, I went to find Lin Xiaoxiao, begging him to let me hide, still treating others like fools, but the person immediately called the police. Perhaps it was my recording that made Lin Xiaoxiao hate Qin Haichuan to the core. Later, when the latter confronted the police, the officers asked me to try and persuade the perpetrator to release the hostage first. Coincidentally, I also wanted to see them in a sorry state, but I hadn't even opened my mouth yet. Lin Xiaoxiao was digging her own grave. "Qin Haichuan, since I'm already ruined and have no hope left, go ahead and kill me. You'll get the death penalty too and die with me. If you don't kill me, you're a coward. You'd better be locked up in a mental hospital for the rest of your life. You're finished." Enraged, Qin Haichuan slit Lin Xiaoxiao's throat with a knife and then kicked her away. Lin Xiaoxiao finally coughed up blood and murmured, "Why, in my dream, I saw that I was supposed to be the daughter of a billionaire, having everything I wanted. Xinqing, I even had you under my feet, and now it is I who look down on her, because this time, you couldn't manage to trade for my good fortune. You lost. How did you know?" Lin Xiaoxiao breathed her last with endless resentment and doubt. Staring at me, her eyes wide open in death, and without a hostage, Qin Haichuan was quickly subdued by the police. He had intended to use mental illness as an excuse to escape legal punishment, but his luck wasn't on his side. After the doctor's examination, he was declared mentally sound. Thus, he became the demon in the public's eyes, a man who killed his own family to vent his rage. Truly, the wheel of fortune turns. The court sentenced him to death in accordance with the law. I went to see Qin Haichuan before his execution and told him the cruel truth. Didn't expect that, did you? I swapped your dumplings and fed them to the dogs, you mad dog. So you went mad too, actually laying hands on the relatives who raised you. What a beast. Qin Haichuan bit his lips so hard they bled with hatred, his face was haggard, his eyes sunken, and I continued to deliver a fatal blow. By the way, let me tell you something else. That mad dog took your place and is now living quite well. It's not crazy anymore and was even adopted by a kind-hearted person. It has food and clothes every day and will probably live out its days peacefully. Oh, how ironic. Wasn't that supposed to be your life? Being a dog, at least you'd have no worries about food and clothing. But now, you're not even as well off as a dog. Struck hard in the heart by my words, Qin Haichuan let out cries of bitter regret. He banged his head against the wall in agony. He banged until it bled, yet he was powerless. Dragged away by the police like a dead dog, but I had already turned and walked away. The past was over, and there were endless business matters and countless sums of money waiting for me to earn. A brilliant future awaits me. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My stepsister's favorite idol was the top scorer in the city's college entrance exam. To get close to her idol, my stepsister tricked our parents out of a lot of money, claiming it was for tutoring. 1 month before the college entrance exam, my stepsister got her wish and hugged her idol for a photo. My stepsister was so obsessed that she felt the scent and exam luck of her idol were surrounding her. She decided not to take a bath for a month, waiting until after the college entrance exam to wash up. She had lice all over her body, and her hair was greasy and smelly. I couldn't stand it anymore sitting behind her, so after going home, I forced her to take a bath. As a result, she failed the college entrance exam, scoring only 338 points, while I scored 668. She was furious, pulled out a pile of smelly socks from under the bed, and stuffed them into my mouth, almost suffocating me. It's all your fault, otherwise, I could have been the top scorer in the city. Just like my idol, having lived a second life, I don't care whether she bathes or not. I just want to see if she can become the top scholar. I died on a sunny afternoon in June. To be precise, I was suffocated to death by my half-sister Helen, who stuffed her month-old stinky socks into my mouth. It's all your fault, otherwise, I could have become the city's top scholar like my idol. Helen's hysterical screams still echoed in my ears, her greasy, tangled hair, the grime under her fingernails, and the stench of sweat, grease, and cheap perfume on her body were all deeply etched into my soul along with the agony of suffocation. I suddenly opened my eyes and found myself standing outside the bedroom door of my stepmother Linda and my father Bob, clutching a crumpled report card in my hand. 668 points, the score from my college entrance exam in my previous life. Helen's mock exam scores have dropped again, only 350 points. How is she going to get into a good university at this rate? Linda's deliberately lowered voice slipped through the crack in the door. Maybe we could use Sarah's college tuition to pay for Helen's tutoring classes first. My father's words sent a chill down my spine. After all, Sarah has good grades and can apply for student loans. I looked down at the date on my phone, May 8th, 2023. Exactly 1 month before the college entrance exam, I had been reborn, back to where the tragedy began. Memories flooded in like a tide. In my past life, I was admitted to a top university with a score ranking in the top 50 of the city, while Helen only scored 338. She attributed her failure in the college entrance exam to me forcing her to take a shower before the exam, which she believed washed away the exam luck she had supposedly absorbed from her so-called academic idol, Sarah. What are you standing there for? Linda suddenly pulled the door open, her hand, painted with crimson nail polish, nearly poking me in the eye. I instinctively took a step back, the fear and anger accumulated from my past life churning in my chest, but I quickly calmed down. In this life, I would not repeat the same mistakes. Mom, Dad, I forced a well-behaved smile. I just got my second mock exam results and wanted to tell you. Linda snatched the report card, glanced at it, and threw it back in my face. 668 points. What are you showing off for? You'd be better off spending that time tutoring your sister. Bob didn't even look at it, just kept flipping through his phone contacts. Let me ask around and see if I can find a reliable tutor. I silently picked up the report card, catching a glimpse of Helen's door out of the corner of my, covered in posters of her idol, Edward. A young star who rose to fame by marketing himself as a top student and was last year's top scorer in a certain city's college entrance exam. Sis, Helen suddenly pulled the door open. She was wearing a t-shirt with Edward's face on it, her hair so greasy it shone. Look, I managed to snag a VIP ticket to Edward's fan meet and greet. She waved a golden ticket that shimmered, printed with the words special benefit, hug and photo. I squinted and noticed the price, 5,000 yuan. "Where did you get the money?" I asked softly, already knowing the answer in my heart. "Mom and Dad gave it to me." Helen spun around proudly. "Brother Edward didn't take a shower for a whole month before the college entrance exam last year, and that's how he became the top scorer. I want to do the same and soak up some of that academic genius aura." My stomach churned. In my past life, I had strongly opposed this absurd behavior, only to be accused by the whole family of being jealous of my sister. After a heated argument, I dragged Helen to take a shower, and from then on, I became the scapegoat for her failure in the college entrance exam. "That's great," I heard myself say calmly. "I wish you success." Helen froze, clearly not expecting me to support her. Linda also cast a skeptical glance my way, but I just smiled, turned around, and went back to my room, closing the door. I immediately took an old notebook from the hidden compartment of my school bag, opened it to a fresh page, and neatly wrote down today's date along with the number 5000 yuan. In my past life, I was too naive, thinking that studying hard and being obedient would earn my family's love. In this life, I'm going to watch Helen rush headlong down the path of self-destruction while collecting every piece of evidence I can to protect myself. I gently stroked the notebook. The only keepsake my mother left me before she passed away. I remember in my past life, Helen sold it for 50 cents as scrap paper without permission, just to buy her idol's merchandise. Outside the window came Helen's shrill laughter. "Mom, Brother Edward is coming to town next month for a concert. I want to buy front row tickets." "Buy them." Bob's voice was resolute. "As long as you study hard." I sneered coldly, pulling out the second-hand phone I had secretly bought from under the bed, and turned on the recording function. "In this life, I will watch as this family is slowly dragged into the abyss by a fleeting idol and a spoiled, overgrown child, and I, Sarah, will step over their corpses to walk towards the bright future that belongs to me." "Sis, look at my hug voucher." Helen's shrill voice pierced my eardrums. She rushed into the kitchen waving a gold-embossed card, nearly knocking over the instant noodles I was cooking. Edward's overly retouched face on the card reflected under the LED lights, with the words "Special Perk, 30-second hug plus photo" printed next to it. "It cost 5,000 yuan. Helen shoved the card in front of my face, her nails still stained with the chipped black nail polish from yesterday. "Brother Edward only released 50 of these, and I managed to grab the last one." I stared at the steam rising from the instant noodles, trying hard to control my facial muscles. "Congratulations. Did your parents give you the money?" "Of course." Helen carefully placed the hug voucher into a transparent card sleeve printed with a chibi version of Edward, hanging it on her already heavy idol fan keychain. "Mom said this is an investment in my future." My throat tightened. In my past life, at this very moment, I had been punished by Linda to wash dishes for a week because I opposed her spending so much money on chasing idols. But now, I just said softly, "That's really nice." Helen tilted her head and looked at me, her greasy bangs sticking to her forehead. "Sis, why are you acting so strange today?" She knows she's in the wrong. Linda swayed her hips as she walked in, the scent of cheap perfume mingling with the sweat on Helen's body, making my stomach churn. She walked right past me, scooped up the instant noodles I had just cooked from the pot, and handed them to Helen. "Eat up, and then go do your homework. Your sister will help you organize that." Whatever notes later, voting notes. Helen sprayed food crumbs as she spoke. "Brother Edward is entering the most beautiful academic star competition next month, and our fan club needs to boost his stats." I silently boiled water again, watching Linda smooth Helen's hair, and remembered the day in my past life when I discovered my tuition had been misused, how I had run to 3 student loan offices in a downpour, looking utterly pathetic. "Oh, by the way," Linda suddenly turned to me. "Teacher 1 called and said the school needs 200 yuan for materials. I told him we're tight on money lately, so you'll have to figure it out yourself." I clenched my chopsticks tightly. That money was paid last week, covered by my breakfast allowance. Now I understand, that money probably became part of Helen's hug vouchers too. "Okay, Mom," I nodded obediently, watching Helen push her leftover instant noodles aside and start daydreaming over Edward's poster. Back in my room, I immediately pulled out the old notebook from the hidden compartment of my backpack. On a new page, I wrote 5000 yuan hug vouchers, then took a photo to archive it, opening my phone's cloud album. I created a new encrypted album titled Evidence and uploaded today's photo of Helen showing off the hug vouchers. My phone vibrated, a message from my homeroom teacher, Ms. Wang. "Sarah, your mom said you're applying for a student loan." I quickly replied, "Teacher, I suspect my family won't be able to cover my university tuition. Could you help me learn about scholarship and student loan policies?" After sending the message, I also took a screenshot of the chat history. In my past life, I was too concerned about saving face and never dared to tell outsiders about my family's troubles, which almost cost me the chance to attend university. "Sis, Helen suddenly kicked my door open, startling me so much that I nearly dropped my phone. I've decided, starting today, I'm going to follow Edward's pre-college entrance exam routine, no showering for a month. I looked up and saw her holding up her phone, the screen displaying a marketing article. Top student idol Edward's college entrance exam secret. Not showering can keep your exam luck. Helen is so smart. Linda's voice came from the living room. The top scholar's method must work. Bob chimed in, right, this is called resonating with the academic elite. I clenched my teeth. In my past life, it was at this moment that I pointed to the entertainment gossip tag under that article and said it was clearly a publicity stunt. As a result, the whole family ganged up on me, accusing me of not wanting my sister to succeed. That's great, I heard myself say. I wish you success. Helen narrowed her eyes suspiciously. Do you really think it's good? Of course. I even managed to force a smile. Your happiness is what matters most. She froze for a few seconds, then suddenly lunged forward to hug me. I instinctively dodged. The smell of sweat, oil, and expired body lotion on her was already starting to become noticeable. TCH, you don't know what's good for you. Helen pouted. Tonight, you have to help me organize the fan voting notes until 2 a.m. Our fan club needs to catch up on the data. At 1:45 a.m., I rubbed my sore swollen eyes and helped Helen finish the last brainwashing document for Edward's study moments. She had long since fallen asleep on her Edward body pillow, drool dripping onto her idol's face. I tiptoed back to my room, pulled a pack of wet wipes from the depths of a drawer, and vigorously wiped the oil from my face and hands. Helen insisted on eating fried chicken and applying hand cream while organizing her notes, leaving her hands greasy. Early the next morning, I was jolted awake by the piercing sound of my alarm. 5:30 a.m., the time I had set for morning reading. In the mirror, dark circles hung under my eyes, so loud. Helen's shriek came from the next room. I'm still sleeping. I quickly turned off the alarm, but I still heard Linda's footsteps. Sarah, she pushed the door open abruptly. Can't you be more considerate of your sister? She studied so late last night. I opened my mouth but ended up saying nothing. In my past life, I had tried to explain that I was helping Helen with her celebrity fan materials until late, only to be met with the response, it's only natural for an older sister to help her younger sister. While washing up, I noticed Helen's toothbrush was dry. She clearly hadn't even brushed her teeth. A sticky note was stuck to the mirror. The shower gel is hidden. Don't even think about sneaking a shower, Helen, I sneered. Washed my face with cold water and headed out. The morning air was exceptionally fresh, at least here. I didn't have to breathe in Helen's gradually fermenting body odor. Sarah, just as I stepped out of the residential complex, I was called to a stop. It was Aunt Zhao from Unit 502 downstairs. She wrinkled her nose and leaned closer to me. Is there something spoiled in your home? I've been smelling a strange odor these past couple of days. I understood immediately. It's Helen. She's decided not to shower for a month, saying it'll bring her luck for the exams. What? Aunt Zhao's eyes widened. Who still believes in that kind of thing these days? I feigned helplessness inside. Both my parents support her, so there's nothing I can do. What a sin. Aunt Zhao shook her head. Your mother used to be such a clean person. She suddenly fell silent, realizing she had said the wrong thing. I forced a smile. Aunt Zhao, if the smell gets too strong, you can talk directly to my stepmother. Forget it. Forget it, Aunt Zhao waved her hand. That stepmother of yours, sigh, you've had it rough. I turned and walked toward the school, the corners of my mouth lifting involuntarily. Another witness, another bargaining chip. When I got home from school, I was hit by a wave of foul odor as soon as I pushed the door open. Helen was sprawled on the sofa, wearing the same pajamas she hadn't changed in 3 days, with snack bags and Edward merchandise piled around her feet. Her hair was so greasy it had clumped into strands, shimmering with an eerie sheen under the overhead light. Sis, she waved excitedly at me, the sweat stains under her arms clearly visible. I discovered today that not showering really works. I'm solving problems so smoothly. I held my breath, placing my backpack on the chair farthest from her. Congratulations. Right. Helen jumped up, her scent pressing over me like a wall. Brother Edward says this is called original exam luck. So many people in our fan group are trying it. I fought back the urge to gag, noticing a brand new copy of 5-3 college entrance exam simulation on the coffee table. The cover was still sealed, with a layer of potato chip crumbs scattered on top. Sarah, Linda called out from the kitchen, go make dinner. Your sister is hungry. I put down my backpack and headed to the kitchen, hearing Helen shout from behind, Sis, I want fried chicken. Brother Edward loves fried chicken the most. In the kitchen, as I looked at the only 2 eggs and half a wilted cabbage left in the refrigerator, I suddenly remembered that in my past life, on this very day, I had been scolded by Bob as selfish for secretly boiling an egg for myself. Mom, I asked calmly, has all the money been spent? Linda, who is painting her nails, Paused for a moment. What do you mean? Nothing, I said, taking out the cabbage and starting to wash it. Just wanted to ask if I should go to the supermarket to buy some groceries. No need, she snapped. Your dad will bring money back tonight. Then she lowered her voice. Don't talk about these things in front of your sister. It'll affect her mood for studying. I nodded, silently adding another note to my mental ledger. Helen's study mood was more important than the whole family's basic needs. What a touching display of maternal love. During dinner, Bob indeed brought back a bag of braised snacks. Helen cheered and rushed over, grabbing a duck neck with her greasy hands and immediately taking a bite. Eat slowly, Bob said with a doting smile, but when he turned to look at me, the smile vanished instantly. Sarah, I heard you upset your sister again this morning. I poked at the white rice in my bowl. The alarm clock woke her up. Can't you just not use an alarm clock? Bob frowned. Helen is at a critical stage and needs plenty of sleep. I looked up and saw Helen flipping through Edward's photo album with her greasy fingers, leaving fingerprints all over her idol's face. All right, I said softly. I won't use an alarm clock anymore. Bob nodded with satisfaction and placed a duck leg on Helen's plate. Helen, Dad bought you new blue light blocking glasses. They'll arrive tomorrow. I want the same style as Edward's, Helen mumbled with her mouth full of food. The one that costs $2,800, buy it, Bob replied without hesitation. I lowered my head and continued eating, mentally adding another note in my little book, blue light blocking glasses, 800 yuan, at night, lying in bed. I listened to Helen's shrill laughter as she sent voice messages in her fan group next door, silently putting in my earplugs, on the third day of my rebirth. I had already gathered enough evidence, but it was still far from sufficient. I wanted to see how this family, the treasure they held in their hands, would be dragged into the abyss bit by bit. Sarah, help me grab my backpack. On Saturday morning, Helen's scream pierced through the door, rubbing my temples. I lifted my head from the sea of exam questions. She had already thrown her backpack at my door and rushed into the bathroom, though she didn't shower. She spent 2 hours in there every day voting for Edward's fan club. I bent down to pick up the heavy backpack. The zipper wasn't fully closed, and its contents spilled out all over the floor. Several brand new copies of 5 years of college entrance exams, 3 years of simulated tests still in their plastic wrap were buried under a pile of colorful Edward merchandise. My eyes were drawn to a gilded envelope. The flap was slightly open, revealing a letterhead inside that read Edward Global Fan Club. I glanced warily toward the bathroom. The sound of running water was still going, and quickly pulled the envelope out. The words exclusive meet and greet invitation immediately caught my eye. I quickly scanned the contents, my fingers unconsciously tightening. It was an admission ticket to a Supreme VIP private meet and greet priced at 18,888 yuan. Scheduled for the third day after the college entrance exams. What are you doing? Helen's scream startled me, causing my hand to tremble, and the envelope fell to the ground. She rushed over, the smell of sweat, grease, and cheap perfume emanating from her body pressing down on me like a wall. Picking up what you dropped, I said calmly, pointing to the scattered items on the floor. Helen snatched the envelope, her eyes wide beneath her greasy bangs. Did you look? I didn't see clearly, I said, lowering my head to help her gather her other things, my heart racing. Next to that envelope, I found a receipt, a ring identical to Edward's, 999 yuan. Did your parents buy all these for you? I pointed at the pile of merchandise on the floor. Helen proudly lifted her chin. Of course, Edward's birthday is next week, and the fan club is buying him a star naming right. I donated 5,000. I forced down the churning in my stomach and helped her pick up the last photo book. The pages automatically flipped open to the autograph page, where a gold marker read, "To my dearest Helen, Brother Edward signed it for me himself." Helen snatched it back, clutching it to her chest. Once I finish the college entrance exams, I can go to his private party. Looking at her greasy, tangled hair and the yellowed collar of her pajamas, I suddenly remembered seeing someone at the flea market last week selling a used tissue of Edward's for 3,000 yuan. The madness of fan culture was beyond my imagination. Sis, what do you want for your birthday next month? Helen suddenly asked, her eyes still fixed on the photo book. I was stunned. In my previous life, until my death, I hadn't received a birthday gift for 5 years. No need, I said softly. I was just asking casually. Helen pouted. Anyway, Mom and Dad said all the money this year has to be spent on my college entrance exam. I quietly noted this information and returned to my room to continue studying. The calendar on the desk showed there were 25 days left until the college entrance exam, and my evidence bank already had over 30 entries. In the afternoon, I made an excuse to go to the library but actually went to an internet cafe. In a secluded corner, I logged into my alternate account and searched for Edward Private Meetup. The search results made my fingers go cold. Multiple accounts of former fans who had turned against him revealed that these private meetups were actually gray area transactions between the idol and fans. with prices ranging from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, including services like private companionship and special services. Although it was hard to tell what was true, Helen's 888 yuan ticket was clearly not for an ordinary fan event. Sarah, a voice suddenly came from behind me, and I quickly closed the webpage and turned around. It was Lu Xiu, a student from the same school. Her eyes red and swollen, clutching a pack of tissues in her hand. "You're here to see the star too?" she asked between sobs. I shook my head. "Research." Glancing at the fan banner in her hand, I tentatively asked, "Are you a fan of Edward?" Lu Xiu suddenly broke down crying. "I just got kicked out of the fan club, just because I didn't have money to contribute to the birthday fundraiser." I handed her a tissue and guided her to the rest area to sit down. Half an hour later, I managed to extract some shocking information from this obsessive fan. Helen was a core member of Edward's fan group, known online as Rui Bao's little wife, and was famous for spending money on her idol without hesitation. She even posted her private chat logs with her brother in the group, Lu Xiu said with a hint of jealousy, saying that her brother promised to give her a special reward after the college entrance exam. A sharp pain twisted in my stomach. In my past life, Helen did indeed disappear for 3 days after the college entrance exam. When she returned, there were suspicious red marks on her neck, and at the time, the whole family thought she had gone out to have fun with her classmates. "Do you know the specific details of that private meet and greet?" I asked cautiously. Lu Xiu's eyes flickered. "Anyway, it's not something an ordinary fan could imagine." She lowered her voice. Helen said her parents agreed to sell their house to support her in chasing her idol. Everyone in the group calls her Little Rich Girl. Stepping out of the internet cafe, the June sunlight stung my eyes. Helen wants to sell the house to chase after celebrities. Although that 2-bedroom apartment is old, it's the only property my biological mother left behind. On the way home, I passed by a real estate agency. The window displayed the housing prices for our neighborhood, starting at 40,000 yuan per square meter. Based on our 80 square meter apartment, I tightened my grip on my phone. That over 3 million yuan from selling the house would be more than enough for Helen to splurge for quite some time. During dinner, I deliberately brought it up in front of Bob. "Dad, our homeroom teacher said the university tuition fees need to be paid by the end of July at the latest." Bang. Bob slammed his bowl onto the table, sending porcelain shards flying. One piece grazed my cheek. "Can't even have a meal in peace." The veins on his forehead bulged. "It's always money, money, money. Don't you know what the family situation is like right now?" I covered my stinging cheek, catching a glimpse of Helen using her greasy hands to send a message in Edward's fan group, a smile playing at the corner of her mouth. "Bob," Linda scolded her husband with a light push, then turned to me and narrowed her eyes. "Sarah, you know Helen is at a critical stage right now. The family's money has to be prioritized for her use." "I understand." I lowered my head and shoveled rice into my mouth, secretly pressing the record button on my phone hidden under the table. "Good that you understand." Bob snorted coldly. "Figure out your tuition fees yourself. Anyway, with your good grades, you can apply for a student loan." Linda added, "By the way, your Aunt Lucy's restaurant is hiring servers. $15 an hour. You can go on weekends." I looked up at Helen. She was grinning foolishly at her phone screen, with a $298 imported steak that Bob had just bought for her sitting in front of her. "Okay," I replied softly, a metallic taste of blood rising in my mouth. I had unknowingly bitten the inside of my cheek. At night, lying in bed, I replayed the recording, and Bob's words, "Figure out your tuition on your own," were clearly audible. I opened the encrypted photo album and added the pictures I took today, Helen's meet and greet invitation, the receipt for the merchandise, and the scabbed wound on my face. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from my homeroom teacher, Mr. Wang, with the results of the second mock exam. My name was ranked 7th in the grade, while Helen had already dropped to the bottom 20. I deliberately printed out the report card and left it on the coffee table. When Bob came home and saw it, he immediately rushed into Helen's room to comfort her. "Helen, don't be discouraged. The questions were difficult this time, Dad," Helen said tearfully. "Several students in my class improved, but I fell behind." "That's because they cheated," Linda said firmly. "My Helen is the most honest." Standing in the shadows of the hallway, I listened to this farce, and the corners of my mouth unconsciously lifted. In my past life, I had been punished with no dinner because of Helen's declining grades. Now, watching them deceive themselves, I could only find it laughable. "Sis." Helen suddenly opened the door, her eyes red. "Why won't you help me with my studies?" I looked at her oily, shiny forehead and the yellow stains on her collar, and calmly said, "You're too busy chasing after celebrities. When do you have time to study?" "Sarah," Linda scolded sharply, "how dare you speak to your sister like that?" "I'm sorry." I immediately lowered my head. After being reborn, I learned to feign obedience on the surface. "I'll start helping Helen with her studies tomorrow." Helen snorted. No need. Brother Edward said that the college entrance exam tests luck, not ability. I've already found the secret to becoming the top scorer. She slammed the door shut, and I heard the sound of a video call from inside. Brother Edward, I'm so sad today. Back in my room, I opened my notebook and wrote on the latest page, June 10th, Helen mentioned the secret to becoming the top scorer. Suspecting there may be more crazy plans, after writing this line, I opened the window and took a deep breath. The night sky was dotted with stars. Could one of them have been bought by Helen and gifted to her brother Edward? The next day was Sunday, and I went to work at Aunt Lucy's restaurant as Linda had requested. After standing for 10 hours, my feet were so swollen that I couldn't even fit them into my shoes, and when I dragged my exhausted body home, Helen was excitedly showing her parents her newly bought Edward-style watch, priced at 16,888 yuan on the official website. Helen is amazing. Linda patted her head. Wearing this watch will definitely help you get good grades. Bob also nodded repeatedly. The money was well spent. I quietly returned to my room and pulled out my piggy bank from under the bed. Inside was the breakfast money I had secretly saved over the past 6 months, totaling 687.5 yuan. It was still far from enough for my university tuition, but at least it was a start. Late at night, I logged into my long-unused QQ account and found the contact information for my biological mother's cousin. After much hesitation, I sent a message. Auntie, this is Sarah. Do you still remember me? After sending the message, I curled up in bed, staring at the light seeping from under Helen's door. Inside, I could hear her silly laughter and the background music of Edward's new song. I clutched my phone tightly, which held the video I had recorded earlier that day, Helen proudly showing off her watch and saying, "My parents gave me all the money they saved for my sister's college education." The evidence was slowly accumulating, just like the hatred growing silently within me. "Helen, please come out for a moment." During Wednesday morning's chemistry class, the homeroom teacher, Ms. Wang, stopped her lecture for the third time, frowning as she looked toward the back of the classroom. The entire class held their breath in unison. The smell emanating from Helen had become so strong that even the students in the front row could no longer bear it. "What?" Helen reluctantly stood up, her greasy, matted hair clinging to her forehead, and the collar of her school uniform stained with a suspicious yellowish tint. Ms. Wang suppressed her discomfort. "The principal's office wants to see you. Also," she paused, "your parents will be at the school in 10 minutes. Helen shook her hair carelessly, sending a few flakes of dandruff drifting onto the desks of the students in the front row, eliciting a wave of gagging sounds. She swaggered out of the classroom, leaving behind a lingering trail of sweat, grease, and the scent of expired perfume. Finally, my desk mate Chen Shui leaned over and whispered, "If I had to hold it in any longer, I would have thrown up." I lowered my head, pretending to take notes, but in my mind, I was counting how many times this week I had been called to the principal's office because of Helen's hygiene issues. The day before yesterday, it was because her classmates refused to team up with her in PE class. Yesterday, it was the cafeteria lady gently suggesting she pay attention to personal hygiene. As the class bell rang, my phone started vibrating. It was Linda calling repeatedly. I took a deep breath and answered. "Sarah," her sharp voice pierced through my eardrum. "Come to the principal's office right now." I gripped my phone tightly. "Mom, I still have class. Stop making excuses," she practically roared. "Your sister is being bullied." In the principal's office, Helen was sobbing and sniffling, the smell emanating from her forcing the principal to open all the windows. Teacher Wang stood nearby, his face ashen. "Linda." The principal wiped the sweat from his forehead. "We fully understand students' personal habits, but Helen's situation has seriously affected the other students." "What personal habit?" Linda interrupted him, her crimson nails almost poking the principal in the face. "My Helen is learning the study methods of a top scorer." Teacher One couldn't help but interject. "Linda, not bathing for a month really isn't a study method. What do you know?" Linda raised her voice. "Edward did exactly this before the college entrance exam last year, and he ended up being the city's top scorer." The principal's expression looked as if he had swallowed a fly. "Well, we've looked into the relevant information, and Mr. Zhou himself has denied this claim. That's just her being modest." Linda wrapped her arm around Helen. "My Helen has ambitions. Not only does your school fail to support her, but you also allow other students to isolate her." I stood in the corner, quietly turning on the voice recording function on my phone. "Student Helen." The principal turned to Helen, trying to keep a distance. "Are you sure you want to continue like this? All the way until the college entrance exams?" Helen lifted her head, the sweat stains on her neck clearly visible. "Of course, this is the promise I made with my brother Edward." She pulled out her phone, the lock screen showing a photo of Edward. "Look, my brother even sent me a message yesterday." Saying he's proud of me, the principal looked at teacher one for help, who sighed and said, "Linda, at least let Helen change into clean clothes." "No," Helen suddenly screamed, "the scent on the clothes is part of the exam luck, no one can touch it." In the end, under the school's strong insistence, both sides compromised. Helen could continue her exam luck plan, but she had to sit in the last row of the classroom and use the school-provided disinfectant spray every day. "What a terrible school," Linda was still grumbling as they left. "Helen, let's not stoop to their level." Helen proudly linked arms with her mother, deliberately bumping into me as she passed by. "Sis, are you jealous of me?" I calmly looked at the red rash beginning to appear on her neck. "How could I be? Wishing you success." After school, instead of heading straight home, I went to the biology teaching and research office. Professor James, our school's specially appointed Tsinghua University Ph.D., was grading assignments. "Sarah," he looked up, his eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses filled with a smile. "Here to ask a question." I shook my head and pulled a small petri dish from my backpack. "Professor, could you take a look at this for me?" Inside the petri dish was a sample of skin flakes I had secretly collected from Helen's pillow 3 days ago, which had already grown a suspicious layer of mold. Professor James took the petri dish, his expression gradually turning serious. "Where did this come from?" "My sister's." I carefully chose my words. "She's been developing some unusual hygiene habits lately." After a careful examination, he furrowed his brow and said, "This is a mixed infection of Staphylococcus aureus and a certain type of fungus, which is very dangerous." He looked at me seriously. "The patient needs immediate medical attention and improved hygiene conditions." I thanked Professor James and was about to leave when he called me back. "Sarah, I've been meaning to ask you, have you ever considered applying for Tsinghua University's independent recruitment program?" I was taken aback. My family's financial situation isn't very good. Precisely because of that, he handed me a form. "The self-strengthening plan is designed for students like you. With your academic performance and biology competition awards, you have a very good chance." My hand trembled slightly as I took the form. In my past life, I had missed this opportunity due to family interference and was forced to take the regular college entrance exam. "Thank you." I carefully put the form away. "I'll think it over seriously." As I walked out of the school gate, the setting sun stretched my shadow long. My phone vibrated. A text from Linda. "Where the hell are you? Hurry back and cook. Helen's hungry." When I got home, Helen was lying on the sofa watching Edward's livestream, surrounded by piles of snack wrappers. The inside of her exposed arm was covered in large red rashes, some of which had been scratched open and were oozing. "Sis," she said without looking up, "get me a glass of iced Coke." I walked into the kitchen and found only one last can of Coke left in the fridge. In my past life, I would have saved it for her, but this time, I pulled the tab and took a big gulp myself. "No more Coke," I said. Walking out with the half-empty can. "Want some tap water?" Helen sat up abruptly. "You're lying." She suddenly widened her eyes. "What's that in your hand?" I shook the cola can. "This, the last one." I drank it. "You," she screamed, jumping up, her body odor pressing over like a wall. "That's my cola." Linda rushed in at the sound. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" "Sis stole my cola." Helen began to sob, tears carving 2 trails through her greasy face. Without a word, Linda slapped me across the face. I had been prepared and tilted my head slightly to lessen the impact, but my cheek still stung with a burning pain. "You worthless scum," she shrieked. "Even your sister's things you'd snatch." I covered my face and calmly replied, "There's no name written on the jar." "You dare talk back." Linda raised her hand to strike again, but Bob stopped her. "All right," he frowned at me. "Sarah, go buy some cola for your sister, and bring back some fried chicken too." I silently turned around, hearing Helen shout from behind, "Get the largest portion. Brother Edward had fried chicken today. I want some too." Leaving the residential area, I didn't head straight to the fast food restaurant but instead turned into the pharmacy next door. "What do you need?" the clerk asked warmly. I pointed to the dermatitis medicine in the counter. "That one, the cheapest." The clerk took out a white ointment. "This one is 15 yuan. It treats general dermatitis." No need to explain. I pulled out a crumpled banknote. "I'll take this." On the way back, I passed by a trash can and casually threw the ointment inside. The worse Helen's infection gets, the better it is for me. Thinking of this, the corner of my mouth involuntarily turned up. At dinner, Helen was devouring fried chicken, her greasy fingers swiping across her phone, occasionally letting out a silly giggle. I noticed the red rash on her arm had spread to the back of her hand. "Helen," I asked with faint concern, "what's going on with your hand?" "This is a test from Brother Edward." She proudly displayed the rash. "The fan group says this is the body expelling negative energy. Once it's all out, I'll be able to ace the imperial exams." Bob actually nodded in agreement. That makes sense. Ancient cultivators would also experience similar situations when they went into seclusion. Linda even more tenderly stroked Helen's head. Our Helen really knows how to endure hardship. I lowered my head to eat, forcing myself not to laugh out loud. In the evening, I used studying as an excuse to hide in my room and organize the day's findings, the recording from the principal's office, Professor James's diagnosis, the photo of Helen's arm, and that precious Tsinghua self-enrollment form. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a reply from my aunt, Sarah. Oh my goodness, after all these years, are you doing okay? I stared at the screen, my eyes suddenly growing warm. My aunt was my birth mother's closest cousin. In my past life, when I was at my most desperate, she had tried to help me, but Linda had shut her out, claiming it was a family matter. After hesitating for a long time, I replied, Aunt, I need help. After sending the message, I opened the window and took a deep breath. The night breeze carried the warmth of early summer. From Helen's room in the distance came the sound of her infatuated laughter as she watched Edward's livestream, along with the rustling noise of her scratching her skin. I gently closed the window, turned to a fresh page in my notebook, and wrote down today's discovery. Helen bragged in the fan group that her parents had agreed to sell their house to support her idol chasing, and she even posted a photo of the property deed. The evidence was accumulating bit by bit, like the rashes on Helen's body, spreading silently. Mom, Helen has fainted. On Saturday morning, my scream shattered the peace at home. In truth, Helen had started talking nonsense since midnight, but I waited until dawn to discover it, just to make the act more convincing. Linda kicked open Helen's door, and the sight before her made her let out a piercing scream. Helen was curled up on the bed, her face flushed, covered with a blanket printed with Edward's face. Her exposed arms and neck were covered with oozing rashes, some of which had already scabbed over, with the surrounding skin showing an abnormal purplish-red hue. Helen, sweetheart. Linda rushed forward, then recoiled as if shocked by electricity. Oh my God, she's burning up. Bob hurried over at the sound and turned pale instantly at the sight of his daughter. Call an ambulance. I stood at the doorway, calmly observing everything. Helen's breathing was rapid and shallow, her lips dry and peeling. On the nightstand sat the half-finished Coke she had been drinking last night, the rim of the glass still stained with lipstick, the one she had deliberately applied to imitate the actress Edward liked. The ambulance arrived with sirens blaring, and the medical staff wrinkled their noses as soon as they entered the door. What's that smell? Linda stammered. My daughter, she has an important exam. After examining her, the medical staff's expression changed abruptly. A fever of 39.8 degrees, severe skin infection. This could be a sign of sepsis. He pulled back the blanket, exposing large areas of festering wounds on Helen's body, which emitted a foul odor. She hasn't bathed in at least 2 weeks, has she? 1 month and 3 days, I whispered, making sure only the medical staff could hear. In the emergency room, the doctor examined the test report, his brow furrowed into a knot. The patient is infected with methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, or MRSA for short, which is a superbug. He scanned us sternly. Why did you wait until now to bring her to the hospital? Linda stammered. We thought it was just a common allergy. An allergy, the doctor pointed at Helen's festering skin. These wounds are severely infected and suppurating. If you had waited another day, she might have needed an amputation. Bob's legs went weak, and he nearly collapsed to his knees. Doctor, you must save my daughter. Money is no object. The doctor issued a hospitalization order. First, pay a deposit of $5,000, and an immediate intravenous injection of vancomycin is required. Upon hearing this number, Bob's expression changed slightly. I keenly noticed this detail, and memories from my past life surfaced. When he bought Helen the same watch as Edward's, he didn't even blink at $16,000. Mom, I said softly, I'll go home to get Helen's medical insurance card. Linda nodded absent-mindedly, her attention entirely on her phone. She was sending a message in Edward's fan group. Please send blessings. My Helen is sick. Back home, I headed straight for Bob and Linda's bedroom. The health insurance card was in the drawer, but my real target was the locked nightstand. In my past life, I never found out what was inside it until the day I died. I snapped a piece of wire from a hairpin and gently fiddled with the lock. 5 minutes later, with a soft click, the drawer opened. Inside lay a black ledger and an envelope. I quickly flipped open the ledger, and the records from the past 3 months made me gasp. April 15th, sold 1 gold necklace. Sarah's birth mother's keepsake, 18,000 yuan. Use for Helen's birthday support. May 1st, early withdrawal of fixed deposit, loss of interest 245 yuan. Purchased Edward fan meeting ticket for 18,888 yuan. May 20th, borrowed 30,000 yuan, monthly interest 5%. Purchased 1 exclusive photo opportunity voucher. My hands trembled slightly. A photo opportunity voucher, the kind that allows you to take a solo photo with an idol. 30,000 yuan, more than my university tuition. Inside the envelope was a gold embossed card that read Edward private photo session, scheduled for 1 week after the college entrance exams. At the very bottom, there was a line of fine print, VIP privilege, may bring one family member backstage. I quickly used my phone to take photos of the key pages of the ledger and the group photo voucher, then put them back exactly as they were. As I turned around, I caught sight of a hospital payment slip on Linda's dressing table, a prepayment of 5,000 yuan, and next to it was a brand of essential oil endorsed by Edward, with the receipt showing a price of 5,888 yuan. I sneered coldly, picked up the medical insurance card and Helen's change of clothes, though she wouldn't need them at all, as the doctor would surely require professional care. On the way back to the hospital, I stopped by a print shop, printed 2 copies of the photos I had just taken, sent one to my aunt's house, and hid the other inside the cover of the book I often borrowed from the library, 100 Years of Solitude. In the hospital room, Helen was already on in 4 drip but was still talking nonsense. Brother Edward, I'll come find you as soon as the exam is over. Linda was sitting by the bedside, lip streaming Helen's condition to the fan group. The doctor said Helen loves Edward too much, and her body can't handle such intense affection. I fought the urge to roll my eyes and handed the medical insurance card to Bob. Dad, the doctor said we need to pay a deposit of 5,000. He scratched his head in frustration. Got it. Then, lowering his voice, he said to Linda, we'll have to withdraw that money for now. Linda immediately objected. No way, that's for Edward's birthday support. I pretended not to hear, walked to the bedside to tuck Helen in, and took the opportunity to turn on the phone's recording function, slipping it under the pillow. Mom, Helen suddenly opened her eyes, her voice hoarse. I dreamed of Edward. He said I would definitely be the top scorer. Linda's eyes immediately welled up with tears. Of course you will, you're the best. But, Helen weakly lifted her hand with the needle in it. I feel so sick. Will I die? Don't talk nonsense, Bob snapped sharply. It's just a minor infection. The doctor happened to come in for rounds and sneered upon hearing this. A minor infection. The mortality rate of MRSA is around 20%, and it could be even higher if it develops into sepsis. Linda finally panicked. Doctor, we must use the best medicine. The best medicine is maintaining hygiene, the doctor said sternly. The patient must take a bath every day, and all wounds must be disinfected and bandaged. No, Helen suddenly struggled to sit up, pulling on the 4-tube. You can't take a shower, it'll wash away the exam luck. The doctor looked at us in shock. What exam luck? It's a study method, I explained quietly, while watching my parents' expressions. Linda quickly smoothed things over. Doctor, we'll be careful when we get home. Attention, the doctor raised his voice. The patient needs to be hospitalized for observation for at least 3 days. In the end, Helen was admitted to the hospital. When Bob went to pay the fees, I overheard him on the phone borrowing money. Leo, can you lend me 5,000? Helen is in the hospital. What? 8% interest? That's way too high. Meanwhile, Linda was busy fundraising in her fan group. Helen has fallen ill for Edward. Please support her. Family. I sat in the corner of the hospital room, taking out my biology textbook to review, occasionally glancing up at Helen. She was grinning foolishly at a photo of Edward on her phone, not looking like a patient at all. Sarah. Linda suddenly called me. You stay here and take care of Helen. I'm going home to get some things. I obediently nodded, knowing full well that she was going to prepare for Edward's birthday support. Tomorrow was the academic idol's birthday. In the evening, Bob also found an excuse to leave, leaving me alone to look after Helen. The 4-drip contained a sedative, and she quickly fell asleep. I quietly took out the phone from under the pillow and checked the recording. It perfectly captured Helen's crazy words. Even if I die from illness, I still want to see Brother Edward. Then, I pulled out my exercise book from my backpack and started solving problems under the dim light of the hospital room. The nurse asked in surprise during her rounds, "Don't you have an exam tomorrow? Why are you still studying?" I smiled and said, "I'm used to it." She shook her head and walked away. I heard her whisper to her colleague, "This family is really strange. The older daughter works so hard, but the younger one." 3 days later, the doctor reluctantly agreed to discharge Helen, but instructed that her wounds must be cleaned daily and she must take her medication on time. As soon as Helen got home, she threw the medicine into a drawer and took out the Top Scholar essential oil endorsed by Edward, applying it all over herself. "Brother Edward said this will bless me to get a perfect score," she exclaimed excitedly, spinning around. The freshly scabbed wounds on her body began to ooze blood again from the friction of her clothes. Linda not only didn't stop her but even helped apply it to her hair, saying, "Put on more. I heard this essential oil contains wood shavings from the pen used by a top scholar." I suppressed my disgust and silently packed my exam supplies, admission ticket, ID card, 2B pencils, I checked each item 3 times. In my previous life, I almost missed the exam because I helped Helen treat her wound. The night before the college entrance exam, Helen suddenly burst into my room, her body emitting a strong scent of essential oil that smelled like a bottle of cheap perfume had been spilled. Sis, her eyes sparkled. Look what I found. She was holding something like a test tube, inside of which were a few strands of hair. What is this? Brother Edward's hair, she exclaimed excitedly, waving her hands around. A sister from the fan group sold it to me for 5,000 yuan. I'm going to take it into the exam hall with me. I stared at the test tube, suddenly remembering Bob complaining a few days ago that his credit card was maxed out. 5,000 yuan, that was equivalent to 3 months of my living expenses. Wishing you success, I said calmly. Turning to continue tidying the school uniform I would wear tomorrow, faded from washing but clean and neat, Helen curled her lip. How hypocritical. She suddenly leaned in close, her scent nearly suffocating me. I know you're jealous of me because Mom and Dad only love me. I didn't argue, just looked at the unhealed wound on her neck. Remember to take your medicine on time. Eat my ass. She rolled her eyes. Brother Edward said Western medicine disrupts the human body's magnetic field. Late at night, I lay in bed, listening to Helen next door murmuring to Edward's poster. Brother Edward, tomorrow I'll be taking the exam with your blessings. I pulled out the phone hidden under my mattress and sent a message to my aunt. The college entrance exam starts tomorrow. Everything is going according to plan. Outside the window, a bright moon hung high in the sky. Tomorrow, the battle would begin. 6. On the first day of the college entrance exam, I woke up at 5 in the morning. It was still pitch black outside. But the light in Helen's room next door was already on. She must have stayed up all night again, busy spamming her fan group. I quietly finished washing up and checked the admission ticket, ID card, and exam supplies in the transparent file bag 3 times. In my past life, I almost missed the exam because I helped Helen look for her lost admission ticket. In this life, I won't even spare her a second glance, sis. Helen suddenly kicked open the bathroom door, and the complex smell of essential oils, sweat, and medicine on her instantly filled the cramped space. Look at my admission ticket. She waved a modified admission ticket. The original ID photo had been replaced with a sticker of Edward's face, surrounded by hearts and glittery stickers. It would be considered cheating, I said calmly, squeezing past her. Not at all. She raised her head proudly, the scabbed wound on her neck cracking a little more. The Proctors are all fans of Brother Edward. I couldn't be bothered to argue and went straight to the kitchen to boil 2 eggs. In my past life, I was too nervous to eat breakfast and ended up with a stomachache during the Chinese exam. This time, I'm making sure everything goes perfectly. Linda got up unusually early to prepare a top scorer's breakfast for Helen, a fried dough stick and 2 eggs arranged in the shape of 100. Mom, Helen screamed, pushing her plate away. Brother Edward had a Western breakfast for his college entrance exam. I want bacon and eggs. Linda immediately panicked. It's too late to go buy some now. I don't care. Helen started throwing things. If I don't do well, it'll be all your fault. Bob quickly pulled out his wallet and handed it to Linda. Go quickly and come back fast. I watched the scene, silently ate my own egg, and then took an extra one. It seemed Helen wasn't going to touch that fried dough stick. At 7:30. We finally headed out. Helen was wearing an Edward support t-shirt and ripped jeans, her hair greasy and clumped, and her body smeared with so-called top scholar essential oil, which shimmered with an eerie glow under the sunlight. Helen, I asked with faint concern, did you bring the medicine the doctor prescribed? She rolled her eyes. I told you that medicine disrupts the magnetic field. She mysteriously pulled a small cloth pouch from her bag. Look. This is incense ash from the temple in Edward's hometown. It's way better than any stupid medicine. Outside the examination hall, many candidates and their parents had already gathered. As soon as we appeared, the crowd immediately stirred. Helen's smell was simply too pungent. What's that smell? A girl covered her nose. It seems to be coming from that person. Helen held her head high, as if those strange looks were expressions of admiration for her. She even deliberately walked closer to the crowd, so that more people could share in the aura of the top scorer. Ugh, a boy retched directly. Is this some kind of biological weapon? The invigilator walked over with a frown. The student, you, hello, teacher. Helen bowed exaggeratedly. I'm Edward's fiancé. The entire room fell silent instantly, then erupted into uproarious laughter. The corner of my mouth twitched as I struggled to hold back my laughter. This scene hadn't happened in my past life. It seemed Helen's madness had leveled up again. The proctor said sternly, student, please show your exam admission ticket. Helen proudly handed over the ticket plastered with photos of Edward. The teacher's expression looked as if she had swallowed a fly. This is not in compliance with the regulations. Why not? Helen screamed. This is discrimination. I'm going to file a complaint. The farce finally ended with Helen being assigned to a backup exam room alone. Before leaving, she glared at me viciously. It's all your fault. If you hadn't made me angry this morning, I wouldn't have been targeted. I blinked innocently. I didn't do anything. The Chinese language exam went smoothly. I focused on answering the questions and even finished 20 minutes early. As I walked out of the exam hall, I saw Helen surrounded by several teachers. Still arguing about her exam admission ticket. Sis, she rushed over and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my flesh. They wouldn't let me bring the incense ash into the exam hall. They even said I had a strange smell on me. I gently pulled my arm away. You really haven't taken a bath in a long time, you. Her eyes widened, and she suddenly raised her hand to hit me. Student Helen, a proctor sternly shouted. Please watch your behavior. Helen reluctantly lowered her hand and threatened me in a low voice. Just you wait, I'll deal with you after the exam. When I got home, Linda had already prepared a sumptuous lunch, all of Helen's favorite dishes. Bob had even taken half a day off to accompany her for the exam. Helen, how did the exam go? Linda asked eagerly. Helen slammed her chopsticks down. I'm so angry I could die. They wouldn't let me use the pen blessed by Brother Edward. And they locked me in a little dark room to take the test. What? Bob stood up abruptly, slamming the table. I'll go talk to their supervisor tomorrow. Exactly. Linda was also filled with righteous indignation. Our Helen is a future top scholar. I ate quietly, listening to them discuss which education bureau official to complain about. In my previous life, I had tried to explain the exam rules, only to be scolded as biting the hand that feeds me. Before the afternoon math exam, I saw the invigilator holding an air freshener, standing guard at the entrance of the backup exam room. Helen walked in with her head held high, like a martyr about to face execution. The next day was even worse. Helen insisted on wearing the same outfit as Edward, a trendy t-shirt printed with the words Top Student Supreme, priced at 2,999 yuan. The problem was, it was a thin summer t-shirt, and today the temperature had plummeted with the rain. Achoo, in the exam room. Helen's sneezes could be heard through the walls. Halfway through the exam, she actually raised her hand to request a pause because Edward had a dream telling her to choose C for this question. For the last subject, English, Helen was clearly not in her right state. Her eyes were bloodshot, her lips were chapped, and halfway through the exam, she suddenly stood up and shouted, "This reading comprehension is an exclusive interview with Brother Edward. I know all of it." The invigilation record shows that she filled her answer sheet with Edward's lyrics and fan slogans, and even drew a big heart in the essay section, with the words Edward, marry me written inside. When the bell rang for the end of the last subject, I let out a long sigh of relief. No matter the outcome, I had done my best. As I walked out of the exam hall, I saw Helen being kept behind by the head teacher for a talk, and she was hysterically screaming persecution. Sis, she suddenly rushed over and grabbed me. Hurry home. I need to pack my luggage. I pretended to be confused. What luggage? Brother Edward has a private meet and greet in Hangzhou tomorrow, she exclaimed excitedly, her words tumbling out in a rush. I bought a plane ticket and a VIP seat. I narrowed my eyes. In my past life, she had indeed disappeared for 3 days after the exams and returned with suspicious red marks on her neck. But back then, the whole family was immersed in the grief of Helen's failure in the college entrance exams, and no one looked into it further. When we got home, Helen immediately locked herself in her room to pack. I overheard her on the phone. Yes, the earliest flight tomorrow. Money is not an issue. Of course, special services are a must. At dinner, Bob asked about the exam results, and Helen confidently claimed she would score at least 650 points. Absolutely. Linda served her a piece of fish. Helen has her brother Edward's blessings. Bob nodded with satisfaction. Once the results are out, we'll host a grand celebration for your admission. I kept my head down and focused on my meal, thinking it would indeed be grand, when Helen's score of less than 300 points was exposed. Late at night, pretending to be asleep, I heard Helen tiptoe out the door. I immediately got up and followed her from a distance. She took a taxi straight to the airport, while I rode a shared bike and took a shortcut to get there. The airport was brightly lit, and Helen was excitedly tapping her feet at the check-in counter. I hid behind a pillar, capturing the entire process of her checking in. Flight MU5431 to Hangzhou is now boarding. The announcement echoed through the terminal, and Helen couldn't wait to dash toward the security checkpoint. I didn't try to stop her. Instead, I turned and headed straight for the airport police station. Officer, I'd like to report a possible fraud case, I said, pulling out my phone to show the duty officer a photo of Helen. My sister just turned 18. She's obsessed with chasing celebrities, and now she's flying to meet some online influencer. She even bought some special service. The officer immediately became alert. Do you have any information about the other party? I pulled up Edward's photo and the screenshot of the 888 yuan meet and greet. it's this celebrity. I heard their studio often organizes these gray area transactions. After completing the statement, I anonymously contacted several entertainment media outlets, providing Helen's flight information and screenshots of the chat in Edward's fan group. Then I sat on the airport bench, watching Helen board the plane with excitement. My phone vibrated. It was Linda calling repeatedly. I turned it off directly and leisurely rode my bike home. The house was already in complete chaos. Bob was pacing furiously in the living room, and Linda's makeup was smeared from crying. "Where the hell have you been?" Bob roared at me as soon as he saw me. "Your sister is missing." I pretended to be surprised. "How could that be? She didn't say anything to me." He raised his hand to hit me, but suddenly his expression changed, and he clutched his chest, collapsing to the ground. "Bob," Linda screamed. The ambulance arrived with sirens blaring, and the doctor diagnosed it as an acute myocardial infarction. In the hospital corridor, Linda waited for the surgery results while still sending messages in the fan group. "Please send your blessings. Helen's dad is sick. Oh, and I'll transfer the money for Edward's birthday support tomorrow." I watched coldly, recording everything with my newly purchased backup phone. At 3 in the morning, Bob was out of danger. I excused myself to buy breakfast and left the hospital, finding an internet cafe to check the news. Sure enough, #Edward fan skips college entrance exam to chase idol # was already trending. In the video, Helen was surrounded by media at Hangzhou Airport, shouting into the camera, "Edward and I are truly in love. He promised to make our relationship public once I get into university." The comment section exploded. "Is this girl crazy? I heard she filled her college entrance exam essay with Edward's lyrics. How did her parents raise her?" I closed the webpage with satisfaction and returned to the hospital. Linda was raging into the phone. "What? Helen made the news. Who leaked it?" Seeing me, she immediately ordered, "Sarah, go online and issue a statement saying those media outlets are spreading rumors." I blinked innocently. "Mom, my phone is dead." The first thing Bob said upon waking up was, "Where's Helen?" Linda stammered, She went to a classmate's house to play." "Bullshit." Bob struggled to sit up. "I saw the news. That shameless thing." "Bob," Linda grew anxious. Helen was framed by the media. Watching this farce unfold, I silently noted down another piece of evidence on my phone. My aunt sent a message. "The materials have been received. My lawyer friend says we have a good chance of winning." Outside the window, the sun slowly rises. In 2 more weeks, the college entrance exam results will be announced. I look forward to that day. 7. On the day the college entrance exam results were released, I made a point of getting up early. In the mirror, I slowly combed my hair and tied it into a neat ponytail. In my previous life, on this day, I missed the time to check my scores because I was trying to stop Helen from committing suicide. By the time I rushed to school, everyone was discussing my score of 668, while Helen was hiding in the bathroom, crying and wailing. My phone vibrated. It was a message from my homeroom teacher, Mr. Wang. "Sarah, the results are out. Come to school quickly." I quietly left the house without disturbing my family, who were still asleep. Helen had been grounded by Bob since returning from Hangzhou, and Linda had been comforting her all night. They had probably just fallen asleep not long ago. The morning air was exceptionally fresh. I took a deep breath and slowly walked toward the school. The entrance was already crowded with students and parents, some cheering excitedly, others crying in each other's arms. "Sarah," Teacher Wang waved to me from a distance, her face beaming with an irrepressible smile. "Guess what your score is?" I looked at her calmly. 668 points. Teacher Wang's eyes widened. "How did you?" "Never mind. Come quickly and see the detailed scores." In the office, several teachers gathered around the computer. When they saw me come in, they all gave me a thumbs up. My report card showed Chinese 138, Math 145, English 142, Science 243, total score 668, ranking 79th in the province. "Sarah," the principal walked over personally and patted my shoulder. "You've brought honor to our school." I smiled politely. "Thank you, Principal. By the way," Teacher Wang suddenly lowered her voice, "your sister, her grades." I looked at her computer screen, and Helen's transcript was right there in plain sight. Chinese 56, Math 32, English 48, Science 150, total score 286, provincial ranking. I didn't bother to read further. How did she get 150 in science? I was a bit puzzled. Teacher Wang gave a bitter smile. She doodled on the answer sheet, so she was given half the base score according to the rules. Just as we were talking, my phone suddenly started vibrating wildly. The screen showed an incoming call from Mom. I pressed the answer button, and Linda's hysterical crying immediately erupted. "Sarah, come back quickly. Helen is going to jump off the building." The office instantly fell silent, with everyone staring at me. I calmly replied, "I'm checking my grades at school. I'll be right back." After hanging up the phone, Teacher Wang asked with concern, "Do you need any help?" No, I folded the report card and put it in my pocket. This is a family matter. After leaving the school, I didn't head straight home. Instead, I turned into a nearby print shop and made 10 copies of my report card. In my past life, I returned home empty-handed, and Helen, in a fit of hysteria, tore my original report card to shreds, leaving me without the crucial proof I needed when applying for scholarships. A crowd had gathered outside our front door, and from upstairs came Helen's heart-wrenching cries. "I don't believe it. There must be some mistake. I have my brother Edward watching over me." I pushed through the crowd and went upstairs to find Helen wearing an Edward fan t-shirt, straddling the balcony railing with both legs dangling outside. Linda was kneeling on the floor, weeping and pleading, while Bob stood nearby, his face ashen, clutching Helen's report card in his hand. "Helen," Linda spotted me and clung to me like a lifeline. "Tell your sister that her grades can be rechecked." All eyes turned to me. Helen turned her head, her greasy hair sticking to her face, her eyes swollen like peaches. "Sis, my score? There must be a mistake, right?" I slowly walked closer, pulling a piece of paper from my pocket. "This is my report card." Helen snatched it away, her eyes quickly scanning the numbers, her face turning from red to pale. 668. Her voice trembled. "Impossible. You clearly forced me to take a shower." "Sarah," Linda shouted sharply, "now is not the time to talk about this." I calmly looked at Helen. "The deadline for the review application is 3 o'clock this afternoon." Helen suddenly jumped down from the railing and lunged at me. "It's all your fault. It's all because of you." Her sharp nails scratched my cheek, leaving a burning pain. "If you hadn't forced me to take a bath, I could have been the top scorer like Edward." I took a step back, dodging her attack, while catching a glimpse of someone downstairs holding up a phone to record. It seemed the media had already caught wind of the situation. "Helen," Bob finally spoke up, "stop making a scene." "Dad," Helen turned to her father, "you promised to throw me a college celebration party. What do we do now?" Bob's face turned ashen, and he suddenly clutched his chest. The aftereffects of his last heart attack hadn't fully subsided. Linda quickly supported him but still managed to comfort Helen. "Don't worry, sweetie, you can retake the exams." The doorbell suddenly rang. I went downstairs to answer it and found several young people with press badges standing outside. "Hello, we're from the City Daily. We'd like to interview Helen." I stepped aside to let them in. "She's upstairs." The reporters swarmed in, their cameras and microphones aimed at Helen, who was still sobbing. Linda immediately switched to a smiling face. "Oh, dear reporters, our Helen was just too nervous. Actually, her grades are usually very good." A sharp-eyed female reporter noticed the transcript in my hand. "This student, are you also taking the college entrance exam this year?" Before I could answer, Helen screamed, "Don't film her. She's not my sister." The reporters were startled by the sudden outburst, but their professional instincts immediately told them there was a big story here. A male reporter quietly asked his colleague, "Is this the girl who chased her idol all the way to the airport? The one from the internet?" "Exactly," I heard someone whisper in response. "The one with the 286 points." Linda's expression turned grim. "Comrade reporters, our Helen just underperformed." "Linda," the female reporter interrupted her. "Your daughter claimed at the airport that she was in a romantic relationship with Edward. What do you have to say about that?" Linda was momentarily speechless, while Bob's face darkened directly. "What romantic relationship?" Just then, Helen's phone suddenly rang with a special notification sound. She reflexively grabbed her phone, and her face instantly lit up. "Brother Edward posted on Weibo." Everyone gathered to look, only to see Edward's studio official account release a statement. Serious statement. "Recently, so-called fans have made false statements in public, claiming to have an improper relationship with Mr. Edward. This company solemnly declares that Mr. Edward has always abided by laws and regulations, maintaining a normal distance from all fans, with absolutely no crossing of boundaries. For individuals spreading false information, this company reserves the right to pursue legal action." Helen's face instantly turned deathly pale. "No, it can't be." Brother Edward clearly said. She frantically checked her phone. I was kicked out of the fan group. The reporters excitedly recorded the scene, with camera flashes going off one after another. Linda tried to stop them. "Stop filming. My daughter needs to rest." The female reporter turned to me. "Classmate, can you talk about your college entrance exam results?" I calmly handed over the transcript. 668 points. Ranked 79th in the province. "Wow," the journalists exclaimed, their cameras immediately turning toward me. "Do you have any study secrets? Focus on studying and stay away from chasing celebrities," I said calmly. This sentence acted like a fuse, instantly igniting Helen's anger. "Sarah, you bitch." She lunged at me, trying to snatch my report card. "You must have cheated." The scene descended into chaos. Bob roared at the journalists to leave. Linda was busy trying to calm Helen down, and I stood in the corner, calmly observing the commotion. After the reporters left, Helen collapsed on the floor, wailing loudly, while Linda wiped away tears beside her. Bob sat on the sofa with a grim expression, clutching the remote control in his hand. The local news was broadcasting the various reactions to the release of college entrance exam results. And the screen clearly showed Helen on the balcony, about to jump. "Sarah," Bob suddenly spoke up, "come here." I walked over to him, and he looked me up and down. 668 points. What kind of school can you get into? Tsinghua or Peking University would be no problem, I replied calmly. Linda suddenly looked up. "What about the tuition? Figure it out yourself," Bob said coldly. "The family's money needs to be saved for Helen to repeat the year," I smiled, pulling a folder from my backpack. "No need, Dad. I've collected some materials here that you should take a look at." Bob frowned as he took the folder. Inside were the evidence I had meticulously gathered: records of Helen's fan expenses, proof of tuition misappropriation, photos of the family account book, screenshots of Helen bragging about selling the house, and the recording of "I won't give you a single cent for tuition. This is..." Bob's hands began to tremble, and what's more, I opened my phone and played a recording of Helen saying on her sickbed, "Even if I die from illness, I must see Brother Edward." Linda's face turned deathly pale. "Sarah, I applied for student loans and scholarships," I said calmly. "Also, Professor James recommended me for Tsinghua's self-strengthening program, and I've already passed the preliminary review." Helen suddenly got up from the floor, her eyes red. "You've been scheming against us." "I was just protecting myself." I looked at her. "Didn't you all decide to sacrifice me a long time ago?" Bob stood up abruptly. "Sarah, how can you speak to your parents like that?" "Parents?" I sneered. "From the day my birth mother passed away, I haven't had any parents." Linda suddenly rushed over, trying to snatch my phone. "Delete it. Delete all those recordings." I easily dodged her. "They're already backed up, both in the cloud and with my lawyer." "Lawyer?" Bob's face changed. Just then, the doorbell rang again. I walked over to open the door, and my aunt was standing outside with a middle-aged man in a well-tailored suit. "Sarah," my aunt said sympathetically, gently touching the scratches on my face, "Lawyer Lee is here." Lawyer Lee walked into the living room, glanced around, and then said in a business-like tone, "Mr. Bob, I am here on behalf of my client, Sarah, regarding the inheritance matters of her biological mother." "What inheritance?" Linda screamed. "That worthless stuff was sold off long ago." Attorney Lee remained unmoved. "According to the will of Sarah's biological mother, the deposits and jewelry under her name should be inherited by Sarah. After investigation, it was found that you have disposed of these assets without authorization." Bob slumped on the sofa, his face ashen. Helen, on the other hand, looked bewildered by everything, as if she hadn't yet recovered from the betrayal of her idol. "Sarah." Linda suddenly knelt down. "Mom is begging you. Can you stop making a scene? Helen is already suffering enough." I took a step back. "Mom, you've never treated me as your daughter, so there's no need to pretend to be a loving mother now." Attorney Lee handed over a document. "Mr. Bob, this is the property recovery notice. Also, regarding Sarah's university tuition, she can handle it herself." Bob roared. "I won't pay a single cent." "Perfect," I said with a smile. "I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore either." My aunt hugged my shoulder sympathetically. "Sarah, pack your things and come with me." I went upstairs to pack my luggage, though there wasn't much to bring: a few faded clothes, a photo of my birth mother, and the notebook that recorded everything. Helen blocked the doorway, her eyes filled with resentment. "Do you think you've won?" I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at her. "Helen, do you know Edward's real grades?" She was taken aback. "What?" "His college entrance exam score last year was only 402, I said softly. "The so-called city's top scorer was a story the company paid for." "You're lying," Helen screamed. "Brother Edward is a top student." I shrugged. "Believe it or not." Then I dragged my suitcase downstairs. Linda was still crying and pleading, while Bob was roaring at Lawyer Lee. I calmly walked past them and stopped at the door. "By the way, reporters will probably soon uncover the truth about Helen and Edward's private meeting. You'd better prepare your statements." Helen's scream came from upstairs. "Sarah, I hate you." I didn't look back, striding out of the cage that had trapped me for 2 lifetimes. The sunlight shone on my face, warm and bright. My phone vibrated. A message from Professor James. "Congratulations, your Tsinghua University admission letter has arrived, with a full scholarship." I took a deep breath and replied, "Thank you, teacher, a new life is beginning." Behind me, the cries and shouts from that house grew fainter and fainter, eventually disappearing in the summer breeze. For years later, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the endless stream of traffic on Chang'an Avenue. My phone vibrated, and the screen lit up with an incoming call from Professor James. "Sarah, I heard you got promoted." Professor James's familiar voice came through. "The youngest investment director. Well done." I chuckled softly. "Thanks to your recommendation back then. By the way," he shifted the topic, "that sister of yours, Have you been in touch with her recently? I look out the window, where the sunlight refracts off the glass curtain wall with a blinding glare. No, why? I just got back from my hometown. Professor James sighed. Your father, his condition isn't good. After hanging up the phone, I opened the old phone I haven't used in a long time. In WeChat, there's a message from Bob sent 3 months ago. Sarah, Dad is sick. Can you lend some money? I didn't reply, but now. Perhaps it's time to settle this. As the high-speed train pulled into my hometown station, I felt a momentary daze, for years had passed, and the city felt both familiar and strange. Dressed in a proper business suit and pulling a carry-on suitcase, I stepped out of the platform, a far cry from the girl who had fled with a cheap suitcase 4 years ago. Director Sarah, the driver, Xiaoqin, took my luggage. Shall we go to the hotel first, or Sunshine Garden Community? I gave the address of my former residence. The neighborhood was much more dilapidated than I remembered. In the security booth, a hunched figure was tidying up the registration book. When he looked up, I almost didn't recognize him. Bob, my father, once a spirited middle school teacher, now with a face full of wrinkles and graying hair. Sarah, he widened his eyes, the pen in his hand falling to the ground. I looked at him calmly. I heard you were sick. He nervously wiped his hands on his uniform. Just a minor issue. It's good that you're back. Where's Helen? I got straight to the point. Bob's expression instantly stiffened. She is at home. I followed him into the residential area. Drawing surprised glances from the neighbors, Aunt Zhao was hanging clothes downstairs and immediately came up to me when she saw me. Sarah, is it really you? I heard you're a leader at a big company in Beijing now. I smiled and nodded. Hello, Aunt Zhao. Oh my, you've really made something of yourself. She looked me up and down. Not like some people, she said meaningfully, glancing at Bob, who squandered their entire house. Bob lowered his head and walked away quickly. I said goodbye to Aunt Zhao and followed him. The door of what was once home was adorned with faded Spring Festival couplets. Bob's hand trembled slightly as he fumbled for the key, pushing the door open. A musty smell mixed with the scent of cheap air freshener hit us. In the living room, Linda was sorting through a pile of health products. When she saw me, the box in her hand fell to the floor with a thud. Shing, Sarah is back. She forced a smile. Helen, your sister is back. No response. I looked around. More than half the furniture was gone, and the walls still bore the adhesive marks from Helen's Edward posters. A few photos sat by the TV, all of Helen alone, not a single one with me. Helen, Linda raised her voice, walking toward a tightly shut door. Your sister is here to see you. Get out, came a hoarse shout from inside. I don't have a sister. Linda smiled awkwardly. She is in a bad mood. I walked straight to that door and gently pushed it open. Helen was curled up on the bed, wearing a dirty Edward fan t-shirt. She had gained quite a bit of weight compared to 4 years ago. Her hair was greasy and tangled, and the room was piled high with snack bags and empty drink bottles. Helen, I called out to her. She slowly lifted her head, her eyes dull and lifeless, widening abruptly the moment she saw me. What are you doing here? To laugh at me. I looked at her calmly. I heard Dad is sick, so I came back to see him. Hypocrite. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at me. Don't you wish we were dead? The pillow landed softly at my feet. I noticed a few posters of Edward still hanging on the wall, but they had been scratched beyond recognition. Helen, Linda rushed in. How dare you speak to your sister like that? Helen suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. Sister, is she even worthy? She staggered out of bed, pointing at my nose. Do you know why she came back? To see how miserable we are. I took a step back, avoiding the foul odor emanating from her. You've been retaking the exams for 3 years. Have you passed yet? The word struck her like a knife. Helen's face twisted. If it weren't for you ruining my life. Did I ruin it? I sneered. You chose this yourself. Remember, not bathing can make you a top scholar. Helen let out a beast-like howl, grabbed something from the table, and threw it at me. A photo frame grazed my forehead and shattered on the floor. It was her photo with Edward, which was actually photoshopped. Enough, Bob suddenly roared. Both of you, shut up. The room fell silent instantly. Helen was panting heavily, glaring at me fiercely. I bent down to pick up the photo, still chasing stars. Don't you know Edward is already out of the spotlight? You're lying, Helen screamed. Brother Edward is the best. I took out my phone and pulled up a news article. Academic idol Edward exposed for faking college entrance exam scores, actually only scored 402 points. Helen lunged to snatch the phone, but I easily dodged and continued reading. The agency admitted that the top scorer in the city title was bought through paid publicity. Impossible. Helen's voice began to tremble. This is just rumors spread by anti-fans. I clicked on a video. where Edward was clearly seen bowing his head and admitting to the fraud under the reporter's persistent questioning. Helen collapsed to the ground as if all her bones had been pulled out, her lips trembling, unable to utter a word. Helen, Linda rushed over to help her up, but was pushed away. It's all your fault. Helen suddenly turned to her parents. You were the ones who said Edward was a top student. You were the ones who told me to learn from him. Bob's face turned ashen. You're the one who's not living up to expectations. Who else can you blame? Seeing that another argument was about to erupt, I interrupted them. Dad, you said you were sick. Bob suddenly wilted. High blood pressure, heart problems too. The doctor said a stent is needed. How much? 50,000 or so. He didn't dare look me in the eyes. Linda immediately chimed in. Sarah, you're doing well now. This amount of money for you. I can pay, I said calmly, but there's a condition. Bob looked up, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. What condition? First, pay me back my college tuition from 4 years ago, and my mother's inheritance. I turned to Linda. How much did the jewelry sell for? 180,000. Linda's face turned pale. Where did that much come from? Director Sarah. A voice suddenly came from outside the door. Do you need me to come in? I turned around to see the driver, Xiao Qin, standing at the door, with a middle-aged man in a sharp suit behind him. It was Lawyer Lee. Lawyer Lee. Bob took a step back in alarm. You, Mr. Bob. Lawyer Lee handed over a document in a businesslike manner. This is the settlement agreement from the inheritance dispute back then. Please take a look. Bob took the document with trembling hands, his face growing increasingly pale. This is too much, according to the bank statements. Lawyer Lee said calmly. Ms. Sarah's tuition and living expenses for 4 years of university totaled 158,000 yuan, plus the jewelry valued at 186,000 yuan, making a total of 344,000 yuan. Where would we get that much money? Linda screamed. The house is already mortgaged. I looked at Helen. How much did those Edward collectibles sell for? Helen suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with hatred. Don't you dare touch my things, Helen. Linda suddenly grabbed her hand. Those posters, those autographs. They could actually, no. Helen shook her off. Those are my last memories. I sneered coldly, taking an envelope out of my bag. Here is 10,000 yuan, enough for the hospital deposit. I placed the envelope on the table. As for the remaining money, I'll pay for the surgery once it's all paid back. Bob suddenly burst into tears. Sarah, Dad knows he was wrong. I was biased back then. No, you don't know. I opened my phone and played a recording. Sarah, I heard you're planning to apply for a student loan. Teacher, I suspect my family won't cover my college tuition. You'll have to figure out the tuition on your own. After all, your grades are excellent. Bob's voice was clearly recognizable in the recording. His face instantly lost its color. There's more. I played another clip. Helen is amazing. Wearing this watch will definitely help you get good grades. The money was well spent. Sarah, your Aunt Lucy's restaurant is hiring servers, $15 an hour. Bob slumped in his chair, unable to speak another word. Sarah, Linda suddenly knelt down. Mom is begging you. Your dad really might die. I took a step back. You should have thought of this day 4 years ago when you chose Helen. Helen suddenly lunged forward, trying to snatch the envelope, but I easily dodged, and she fell to the ground, letting out a painful groan. Helen. Linda immediately went to help her up, but shot me a resentful look. Are you satisfied now? Are you happy to see us like this? I shook my head and handed the envelope to Lawyer Lee. Give it directly to the hospital. It's earmarked for a specific purpose. Stepping out of what was once my home, I took a deep breath. Xiao Qin asked softly, Director Sarah, shall we head back to the hotel? Let's go somewhere first. I gave an address. Municipal No. 1 Middle School, at the school gate. Teacher Wang was already waiting there. Seeing me, she waved excitedly. Sarah, it really is you. I walked up to her with a smile. Teacher Wang, it's been a long time. Oh, the big shot from Beijing is back. She looked me up and down. I heard you're a director at an investment company now. You really make your teacher proud. After exchanging pleasantries, I stated my purpose. Teacher Wang, I want to establish a scholarship fund specifically to help girls, like me. Teacher Wang's eyes instantly reddened. Good, that's wonderful. The school really needs this. As we walked and talked, passing by the teaching building, a familiar figure emerged from the restroom. It was Chen Shui, who used to sit behind Helen back then, now working as a trainee teacher. Sarah, senior, she exclaimed joyfully as she ran over. I've always wanted to thank you. I was stunned. Thank me. Back then, what happened to you? We all knew about it, she whispered. Later. I got into a teacher's college because I saw how hard you were working. A warmth spread through my heart. The struggles I once thought no one knew about had actually been seen by others all along. When I left the school, the setting sun stretched my shadow long. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Lawyer Lee. The hospitalization procedures have been completed. Bob insisted on staying in a regular ward. I replied, let him be. Then I dialed my aunt's number. Aunt. Regarding the scholarship fund, I'd like to add another $1 million. After hanging up, I looked up at the sky. The girl filled with resentment 4 years ago can finally truly look forward now. As for Helen, the image of her slumped on the ground, clutching those cheap merchandise, flashed before my eyes. She chose idols, while I chose knowledge. She believed in the illusion of exam luck, while I trusted in real effort. Our fates were sealed 4 years ago. Director Sarah. The investment proposal from Huachuang has been placed on your desk. Secretary Xiao Zhang stood respectfully at the office door. I nodded and continued reviewing the documents in my hand. Outside the window, the lights of Beijing CBD shone like a sea of stars. On the corner of the desk were a few photos: my graduation ceremony at Tsinghua University, the bell-ringing ceremony for the company's IPO, and a special group photo. Me and a rural girl with a ponytail standing in front of a simple school building, holding her university admission letter high in her hand. My phone suddenly vibrated, showing an incoming call from Teacher Wang. Sarah. Teacher Wang's voice was filled with unconcealed joy. Rose has been admitted to Peking University, with a full scholarship. A slight smile touched the corner of my lips. Rose was the first girl I had helped through my scholarship fund. Her parents, who favored sons over daughters, had nearly forced her to drop out of school to work. That's wonderful. I'll go see her next week. I flipped open my schedule. It just so happens I need to attend the launch event for the Foundation's new project. After hanging up, I opened an encrypted folder on my computer. Inside were all the materials I had collected over the years, evidence of Helen's obsessive celebrity chasing, Bob's medical records, screenshots of Linda's comments in fan groups. My gaze lingered on a video, a disheveled Helen, holding up a poster of Edward, screaming at the airport. My phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. Excuse me, is this a mess? Sarah. A formal male voice came through. This is the detention center. Your sister Helen has been detained for disturbing public order, and she requested to contact you. I twirled the pen in my hand, its cold gleam reflecting under the light. What exactly happened? This afternoon at Terminal 3 of Capital Airport, she tried to break through security to chase after a celebrity and even bit a security guard. The other person paused. She seems mentally unstable, constantly shouting something about Brother Edward being framed. I closed my laptop with a crisp click. How much is the bail? 5,000, but she needs someone to vouch for her. I won't vouch for her. My voice was as calm as if discussing the weather, but I can help her get a lawyer. The fluorescent lights in the detention center were uncomfortably harsh, the smell of disinfectant mixed with an indescribable stench. I sat on a bench waiting, next to a sobbing young girl, also here to bail out a friend who had been chasing after a celebrity. Ms. Sarah, a female police officer approached, her badge gleaming coldly on her uniform. Your sister is extremely agitated. The doctor recommends a psychiatric evaluation first. I nodded. Can I see her? The policewoman led me down a long corridor, our footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. Helen was locked in a small interrogation room. Through the glass window, I saw her banging her head against the wall, muttering something under her breath. She had grown even heavier since our last meeting. Her greasy hair was matted into clumps, and the Edward fan t-shirt she wore was so dirty its original color was unrecognizable. Fresh scratches marked her face, and her fingernails were caked with black grime. Sis, she cried out when she saw me, lunging toward the door, her handcuffs clanking loudly. You're here to save me, right? They've framed me. I sat down across from her, deliberately keeping my distance to avoid the foul odor on her. I heard you bit the security guard. He deserved it. Helen's eyes were bloodshot, the corners of her mouth still stained with dried blood. He dared to stop me from seeing Brother Edward. I took up my phone and opened the pre-saved news article. Fated idol Edward secretly marries. Wife is a wealthy second-generation fan. In the photo, Edward had his arm around a young girl's waist, beaming with joy. Helen stared at the screen, then suddenly screamed, "It's fake. It's all photoshopped. It was done by anti-fans. Take a look at this." I pulled up another video. Edward admitting in a press conference that he had falsified his college entrance exam scores, with his 402-point transcript clearly visible. No, impossible. Helen shook her head frantically, oily hair flinging a few drops of unknown liquid. Brother Edward was forced. They threatened him. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, her nails digging deep into my flesh. Sis, believe me, help me, let's go confront Edward. I calmly pulled my hand back, took a disinfectant wipe from my bag, and cleaned my wrist. Helen, do you know how Mom and Dad are doing now? She blinked blankly. As if she had never considered this question, Dad had a stroke last year and now lives in a nursing home, unable to take care of himself. My voice carried no emotion. Linda works at a supermarket, earning $800 a month, and still has to pay off the debts you racked up chasing celebrities back then. Helen's expression twisted for a moment before returning to that fanatical look. They'll understand. Once I help clear Edward's name, understand, I sneered. Do you even know they sold their house to pay off your debts? They're living in a shantytown now. So what? Helen suddenly raised her voice. For Edward, anything is worth it. I stood up, looking down at her. You're truly pathetic. You're jealous of me, she screamed hysterically. You've always been jealous of my relationship with brother Edward. A policewoman came in at the sound and held her down. I turned to leave. But Helen suddenly lunged forward and grabbed my leg. Sis. Don't go, help me. I shook her off forcefully, and she fell to the ground, a red mark from the handcuffs appearing on her wrist. Helen, I stood at the door, looking back at her one last time. You deserve this. Stepping out of the detention center, the sunlight stung my face. I took a deep breath and dialed my lawyer's number. Attorney Lee, please help me prepare a statement officially announcing the severance of kinship with Helen. After hanging up, I sent another message to Teacher Wang. Could you send me a photo of Rose's admission letter? I'd like to post it on the Foundation's official website. On the high-speed train back to Beijing, I received a notice from the detention center. Helen had been forcibly hospitalized due to abnormal mental condition. Attached to the letter was a form requiring family members to sign for confirmation, without even looking at it. I forwarded it directly to Attorney Lee for handling. My phone vibrated. A photo from Teacher Wang. Rose standing in the sunlight, holding up her Peking University admission letter high, her smile so bright it stung my eyes. I zoomed in on the photo, looking at the light spots reflected on the admission letter, and suddenly remembered that afternoon many years ago, when Helen suffocated me with a smelly sock. Outside the window, the scenery sped by. I opened my laptop and began revising the Foundation's funding plan for the next quarter. Sunlight streamed through the car window onto the keyboard, bright and warm. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.